Ladies and gentlemen, on today's show, we interview the co-founder of the literary agency of choice for Elon Musk's best-selling biography. Her literary agency has also represented the best-selling book, Ready Player One, the legendary comic book genius Stan Lee's books, the smash hit The Subtle Art of Not Giving a What, and a book that just keeps on selling, You Are a Bad What? How to Stop Doubting Your Greatness and Start Living an Awesome Life, etc. My friends, FoundryMedia.com represents the authors of the books that you know. Today, the woman I simply call the EFOT shares with us how she was able to start her successful literary agency during a nuclear winter of publishing, how the publishing industry works, the habits that make her super successful, how authors get paid their royalties, how she keeps track of all the royalty payments owed to her, why she likes to start with a crazy idea when working with her authors, why she believes that you need to always focus on operating at your highest and best use, the role book publishers play in an author's career, why you must be compromising in relationships but uncompromising with your career, her advice to female businesswomen about staying proactive, and much, much more. Ladies and gentlemen, this interview blew my mind. Without any further ado, I present to you our interview with my friend, EFOT.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
Now, 3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, 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 and yes. Thrive Nation, on today's show, we are interviewing a super guest, a super humble lady who happens to be, in my humble opinion, one of our planet's top literary agents. Miss EFOT, welcome onto the Thrive Time Show. How are you, ma'am?
I'm so well. Thanks so much for having me on.
Hey, I want to ask you this because you've had a lot of success, and I know you don't like to name drop, and I know you don't like to brag on yourself or your organization, but can you share just a few of the titles of the books that your organization has put out over the years? I know there's so many, but some of the ones that maybe more listeners would know, or some of the titles that are, the perennial bestsellers.
Well, of course, every one of our clients' books is one of my favorites, but in terms of terrific books, some of your clients, some of your listeners might have awareness of is, for example, one of my favorites, which is a science fiction book called Ready Player One, which imagines a dystopian world that's sort of Willy Wonka set in the gamer world. We love some of our sort of learn while you're being entertained titles, like The Girls of Atomic City, which tells us the untold story of the contribution of women to the Manhattan Project. So sort of as you're reading about this incredibly harrowing story, you're actually learning about nuclear physics. And ditto by the same author, whose name is Denise Kiernan, I love The Last Castle, which tells you the untold story of the lady of the house of the Biltmore estate. Everybody knows that it's a massive house in North Carolina, but little did you know about the tremendous contribution of all kinds of women, both the lady of the house and others, in keeping that private house from meeting the wrecking ball. And again, you finish this harrowing tale, and then you realize, boy, I know a lot about architecture now. Again, it was just slipped in there. But some of our other titles are The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, or You Are a Badass, with a wonderful biography of Elon Musk, who's, of course, the founder of SpaceX and Tesla, and so many others.
You have a hit list. It's just massive. If you're listening today and you go to FoundryMedia.com, look for the list of the books that they have helped to produce and to bring to market. And if you find a book that you love, that you've already read, go leave it a review. But EFOT, your success can be intimidating and overwhelming for some of our aspiring entrepreneurs out there. So I'd love for you to share with us where your career began and what it was like to start from the bottom.
I was super lucky. I mean, like most people, I spent 3+ years on my school paper writing, but also editing my peers. I love storytelling, but I also really love the process of working with other writers and learning from them, frankly. And that ultimately led me to this job.
And can you explain to the listeners out there what a literary agency does? I mean, what is Foundry's role? Or maybe just kind of, because I think people don't realize what a publisher does, what an author does, and an agent does. Can you kind of explain what you do?
Sure. So think about a literary agent as the connector between someone who's got something to say, and that could be, by the way, a novelist writing, work of fiction, or a professional like yourself, or an expert in the field who, has some kind of unique piece of information that could be useful to somebody else. Those two people are both authors, even though one has 100% fingertips on the keyboard, and somebody else may come to writing in a different kind of way, as a business professional, maybe even with somebody who is a co-writer with them or a ghostwriter. All of those things are acceptable to be called author because you're conveying information that only you can give. My job is to help connect you to a professional in the trade publishing business who can help you bring your words to more people. Now, I want to be really clear. When I say the trade publishing business, that's not all publishing, and that's not all writing, right? Anybody can write anything, and if they have a connection to the ultimate reader, meaning they have their own distribution system, they may or may not choose to work through traditional trade publishing that has a pretty narrow mandate about what they know how to sell in a big enough way where it makes it worth their while to sell it. But there are plenty of people who do not engage with traditional trade publishing who are nonetheless incredibly successful writers and have a very enviable relationship with their readership. But to the extent somebody is right for traditional trade publishing, they generally they work with a literary agent because most trade publishers require someone like me to both be a tastemaker who allows them to narrow the playing field of what they have to consider in any given year, and also be a go-between and help often an uninitiated author navigate a pretty confusing world of new terms, of new business practices, and in general, allow the author to have the kind of good publishing experience that makes them want to do it again.
Marianne Zillner from the Today Show had so many great things to say about you before she introduced me to you. Marianne Zillner is one of the producers of the Today Show, and you have such a great resume of being consistent and diligent. Are you perfect? No, I'm not saying you are, but you've had a lot of success. When did you figure out that you wanted to be diligent about this industry? When did you decide, okay, I want to put my energy, my focus, my time, my passion, all of it behind one thing? When did you decide that you wanted to do this professionally?
Look, as an entrepreneur, I think that you never have to choose, right? I don't know a single entrepreneur who ever knows for sure this is it and this is what I want to do professionally. We do a gut check with ourselves in the moment and in a manner that takes into account an evolving world to figure out whether what we feel like where we're putting our efforts in today is right. The advantage to that is that we always challenge ourselves to stay at the bleeding edge of whatever's going on so that we're contributing in the best way possible. And I know that I love working with creatives and with experts in their field. Marianne Zillner from the Today Show is certainly one of those. She's the New York Times bestselling author of, if I may say, Shouting Mom, a series of books and an entire franchise of paper goods. She's had a number of TV deals as well. She came to me with a terrific idea for a new way of telling the story about what moms are going through, and she was super early to this. And my job was to help her and her co-authors tell that story in a compelling way and connect them with a partner who was going to help them get it out in the biggest way possible. So I love translating the process of what a professional like Marianne does or what the vision that she has for the publishing business, but I also love the adaptation into other art forms like TV and film and audio products. Whatever the new version of conveying information is, my job is to stay ahead of it and honestly, like, bring new ideas to the people who come to me and say, like, how about a book? Well, I'll say, like, well, that sounds like an interesting idea. How about a podcast first? Then we go into book, because that allows us to come into book in a bigger way, right? So what and how I do as a professional, who's an advocate for creatives and experts, will always evolve and should.
How did you first get started in the industry? Did you were you an intern somewhere? Did you wait in the lobby of some big publisher, pick some big literary agency until you got your break? Did you wait tables? Were you creating nuclear devices using coconuts? How did you get started?
I entered the business in a non-traditional way. My career I began as a lawyer, and I ended up lateraling into what was then sucking up every professional, the .com industry. But eventually I started a small press that focused on how-to nonfiction. And that press division met with some early success, and the list of books that we put out was bought out by bigger publishers. When it was time to decide what to do next, my own agent asked me if I would consider joining the agency that had represented me. And to be honest, I missed client advocacy. And we eventually started Foundry together.
Wow. Now, when you started a literary agency, was this in an apartment? Were you starting it in a condo? Did you have an office? Did you work out of your car? Get us into some of those nitty-gritty details, because it's just so unapproachably awesome what you've built. And I just think I know the listeners out there want me to ask that. Where did you start?
I know that there's a great tradition of starting lean, and we certainly did that. But because we knew that we'd be bringing on colleagues, and we were feathering a nest that was going to not just hopefully be a great place for authors, but also we wanted to attract other professionals who were advocates like us. And in order to do that, we educated ourselves about what would make the best possible home for other agents like us. What did they need, and how could we create an ecosystem that provided them with those things that they needed, so that they could focus on client care. And so to do that, we created the physical plant that we wanted to be in and that we knew met the needs of the folks that we were hoping to attract, based on very nearly 2 years of taking really of surveys, right, of what people who we were hoping to attract wanted.
I think you've only made the mistake of letting me in your building one time, and actually twice, because we were there, we left, we got some incredible fresh-pressed juice, you and my wife there, and we came back. We ate organic. But when I came back, I saw the Millennium Falcon in your office there, and it's kind of how would you describe the decor, the mojo, the patina of your office now? How would you describe that? I remember the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, yeah, well, I think what you're referring to is on the first anniversary of the business, I gifted my business partner this vignette of a Millennium Falcon and 2 X-Wing fighters, sort of mid-flight. He had this really terrific way of explaining to other agents how one manages all the terrific creatives that you're working with. How do you know which client to focus on at any given time? And his description was really, it is not true to the George Lucas narrative as it appears in Episode 4, A New Hope, but I'll sort of paraphrase it, which is, you are in the Millennium Falcon, you're flanked by a bunch of X-Wing fighters, you're headed towards the Death Star, and there are some X-Wing fighters that are far behind you, there's some beside you, there's some in front of you. Each one of them has a payload for destroying the Death Star. And so depending on whether someone's behind you, meaning they're still working on their proposal or their book, whether they're beside you, they really need attention from you to sort of shoot forward, or whether they're actually like the one Luke Skywalker who's, getting ready to, sort of head in and try to, drop the explosive. that is the way that you identify who needs your attention at the moment. And that's how you're able to give everybody what you need. In any event, I presented this to him. And really, the entire, it hangs outside of his office, just over the door.
You have gained traction now, so now there's sort of a momentum which you have to keep up every day. But there's a sort of a momentum you've created. But it can feel really lonely. I work with a lot of clients where it's very lonely when they have no momentum. They have no reviews, no previous customers. A big idea that was cool 6 months ago. They're running out of cash, and you guys pushed through that threshold of Hades. When did you feel like you were first starting to gain traction with Foundry Media?
Well, it should be noted that we started the business in 2007,
Mm-hmm.
and that was really the start of, the most recent sort of nuclear winter in publishing, where we opened up an office, and all of a sudden, the investment business, which is a big business here in New York, but also as a corollary, the publishing business, just the bottom fell out. And we could have looked at it as a terrible mistake to have started a business in what turned out to be a horrible climate.
Yeah.
But in fact, what we realized was it was our greatest opportunity. We were a new business with no backlist, meaning no royalty-bearing books from earlier seasons. And all of our competitors had that money coming in from earlier seasons. We were starting from scratch. We were also, at that time, an agency that was focused on more commercial, pop culture, sort of new idea publishing, as opposed to storied literary fiction from 100 years back that that we continue to enjoy, of course, as readers. And had we been around 100 years, maybe we would have been lucky enough to have, but we didn't have that revenue to float us. And so we had to do two things. One is to hustle, to bring in as much money as possible with the new kinds of books that we hoped people would embrace.
Yeah.
And our luck was that in this climate, in this nuclear winter climate, those are exactly the books that publishers wanted to buy. But the other lucky thing that happened that we really grew to believe was an incredible opportunity for us was that it was that nuclear winter was an opportunity for us to pick up talent and colleagues, right? Colleagues that whose homes at other agencies were no longer available to them. And that actually superpowered our growth.
So you mentioned bringing in money in the nuclear winter. You got to bring in as much money as possible. I'm not asking for you to share how much money you make. Could you explain how a literary agent gets paid? I think we have a disproportionate amount of potential authors or authors that listen to our show. We have some really neat. We had a gentleman who has his own show on the History Channel the other day who came into just this morning came into Elephant in the Room, our men's grooming lounge, our new Oklahoma City story just came in today, and they listened to the show, and it's just kind of a fun. There's a lot of authors out there. How do you get paid? How does the author get paid? Kind of break down that a little bit so the listeners out there can have some clarity about the industry.
Sure. Well, so just as a clarification point, what I'm describing here is just for the trade publishing industry. Trade, colloquially, is something you might see at a bookstore. So not a professional book, not an academic book, but it's really something that you would see at your local terrific bookseller, offline or online. Those kinds of books have a price listed on the cover. That is called the list price. In business, you would call that the gross. An author gets paid a royalty of, generally speaking, 15% on a hardcover, so 15% of that list price.
Got it.
On a hardcover, and about 7.5% on a paperback. I'm generalizing terrifically.
And I apologize for painting you into a corner. I just want to. And then, do you get paid anything? Do you get paid per book or per deal, or how do you get paid?
Well, the reason I went into how an author gets paid is because I get paid the way an author gets paid. I'm a partner to the author, and I am paid 15% of what I bring you for a domestic deal. Domestic, with all due respect to your listeners in across North America. Yeah. Domestic refers to both the U.S., Canada. Okay. So I want to be respectful about that. And I get paid 20% of what I bring in from foreign deals, and that is because I split that 20% with a local co-agent who provides me with local knowledge and also muscle for collecting your money in that local country. And so I don't get paid up front. I'm not like a lawyer. I don't get paid by the hour. I don't get a retainer. I am paid when I deliver money to you, and when I'm ready to send you money, I take 15% of a domestic deal or 20% of a foreign deal, and I pay myself, and I pay the Con Ed bill.
You are, you have different books you write. So like your book, for as an instance, the book You're a Bad that's in Target right now, that book has been in Target forever. I mean, it seems like every time I go to Target, that book has another version, or The Subtle Art of Not Giving a It seems like that book never goes away. I bought the book, maybe 2 years ago? And when did that book come out? I mean, that book has been around. How long has The Subtle Art of Not Giving a been around?
Just a few years. To clarify, both of those books were sold by my very talented colleagues, not me personally. And credit, of course, goes to the authors themselves for writing tremendous books and the publishers who helped them bring it to market. In the case of You Are Bad, that's a book that came out years ago and, in fact, did not find its audience or its success until it hit the New York Times bestsellers list 2 years after it came out. That's a real anomaly. That generally doesn't happen. But the credit for that really goes to the author, whose name is Jen Sincero, because she used her passion for coaching people who probably were beginning their success journeys where she had begun hers. And really, it was word of mouth that ultimately brought that book to its audience, right? And ditto for The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Bloop.
Now, how do you keep track of all these payment sources? Because I work with 160 coaching clients who pay approximately $1,700 a month. Some clients more, some less. So if anybody's out there listening, you're doing the math, you go, okay, well, 1,700 times 160, and then we make a 20% margin. I'm very transparent about that. But it is, all of my payments are due on the 1st or the 15th, and my wife is just on it. She's just awesome. But how do you, because you are you are dealing with creative people that always have a burning fire or something awesome going on or a new idea. How do you keep track of everything?
Well, I think I'm lucky that I have a wonderful controller and a great finance team here at Foundry. It's one of the benefits of being one of the larger agencies in the business. On the one hand, we're independent, so our sole purpose is just working with authors. Those are the folks who keep the lights on for us, so they're our meaningful business.
Yep.
But on the other hand, we're big enough to where, so we're independent, and therefore that means that we're focused on making money for you the way you're focused on making money for yourself. But we also are big enough to have a really tremendous back office.
Your team is awesome. The authors are awesome. It's just it's awesome. What mentor made an awesome impact in your life? What mentor, up to this point, were you, or maybe mentors? Was there somebody in your life that picked you up, that kind of dusted you off? You know, maybe you had a dream and it was kind of drifting, or somebody that said, hey, go here, do this. This is how to organize your day. This is how to stay motivated. Did you have any mentors or a mentor that made a big impact on your career thus far?
Well, I'm a big believer that you really can learn from everyone. And, a person who may or may not be successful in their own life may nonetheless be placed in front of you in that moment to provide guidance in a way that you hadn't seen before. And so I'm a big believer in asking everyone about anything, because you never know. And that's probably the soul of this show. And that's true especially for those who are not in your profession. Naturally, I count my parents as the most influential business and, of course, life mentors to me. But I have consistently gained tremendous business insights, believe it or not, from the commercial landlord who Foundry rents the top floor of our building from. To touch a little bit about one of your earlier questions, he's been an invaluable teacher to me, at beginning with the first piece of advice he ever gave me. I showed up, and he was looking to rent an entire New York City office building floor. I did not need an office building floor yet, but I nonetheless began the process of negotiating, figuring I'll get there. I'll fill the seats that I need to in order to make this space that felt right for us otherwise work. And so in the process of negotiating with him, I was asking about loss and, the square feet and whatever. And he sort of put up his hand and he stopped me and he said, "Ifat, all that matters is that you want to be here and that I want you here. And the rest of it, we're going to work out."
It's powerful.
And the truth is, if you zoom out and you think about that, that's the right attitude for literally any transaction that you're trying to complete.
That right there is powerful. I know that you and I believe in the win-wins. You and I believe in the golden rule. I know we're on the same page with that. But a lot of people don't believe in that. They believe in zero-sum negotiation. Someone has to win, someone has to lose. I don't want you here, but I'll do it if you pay enough, that kind of thing. So that's a powerful moment. I want to ask you, where does the name of Foundry Media come from?
Well, so Foundry is a place where steel is forged, right? My business partner and I did not want our names on the door. We wanted to convey that Foundry is a place where our clients' ideas would be iterated into enduring products.
Why do you feel like it had success when a lot of other, most other agencies haven't had the level of success that you've had? What do you feel like that competitive edge has been for you?
Well, I would take exception. I think so many of our colleagues in this business, and that's what makes this business so nice, is that there are so many terrific agents, and it's really just a gut check of who feels right to you as your guide. But I do feel like we try to create a home where our authors, again, those be writers who consider themselves novelists or people who are experts in the field, can bring their ideas. And then our job is really to, of course, help them understand what the part of their idea, the thing that they're passionate about, where that they work in commercial trade publishing. But beyond that, we really try to encourage our clients to, kind of go to the next level with whatever that idea is. What's the crazy version of what they're thinking of? What's the broadest version that they probably wouldn't normally share? That's the idea we're interested in talking about anyway. We can always walk it back, but let's start with crazy. And what if crazy were possible? Because I feel like in my own life, the only regrets I've ever had is not thinking big enough, right? Limiting myself has been the only mistake I've ever made.
Well, I agree. You need to stop going after these small projects like the Elon Musk book, and you need to start focusing on some big things like actually interviewing the international leader of Mars. I mean, that right there, now that would be impressive. I'm just messing with you. I'm just saying you guys have had some big people. It's crazy. It's crazy, Ifat. And you're saying even though you've had big success, you look back at it and you're saying you wish you would have aimed maybe a little higher sometimes?
My career success has been entirely defined by understanding the difference between what I can do but what I should do, right? So I can, as a person who was trained as a tax lawyer, do my own tax planning. But that's not the highest and best use of my time as an entrepreneur. The highest, best use of my time as an advocate for my clients is to spend time with them thinking about, strategies for their next move. And that idea of making a difference, differentiating between what I could be spending my days doing and that highest and best use for me and for my clients, that has 100% defined a regular day from an amazing day.
Highest and best use. So good. Thrive Nation, if you're listening to this show right now, you should listen to it twice, and you should probably engrave it in a tablet somewhere because there's so much knowledge bombs being dropped left and right. Ifat, what role do publishers play? Like Random House, these big names, people go, oh, what Random House? What do they do? What do these publishers do?
So publishers provide a professional editing job. They lend their goodwill, their name, to the spine of your book in the marketplace. Hard won, by the way, over many decades. Then they actually pay to produce your inventory, and then they feed that inventory into their established retail distribution system. Now, the rest is up to you. You'll notice that I didn't say a publisher will introduce you to readers, or they'll publicize, or they'll market.
There we go.
Those core competencies, those are up to you because you are in the best position to know your marketplace and your prospective readers.
A lot of the books that I own have the penguin on the side. I had a lot of penguin. I've got a few McGraws, a lot of HarperCollins. I've got, I've looked at them, and I'm just kind of getting prepared for my EFOD interview. I'm just getting a little nervous, trying to work through the jitters, and I'm going to do the research here. And can you explain do all publishers take all kinds of books, or they all have their different niches, or how does that work?
So a general trade publisher hires people who are experts in acquiring and then editing all manner of book categories, whether that's business, whether that's health, parenting, fiction for, in science fiction that is upmarket and talks about, beautiful, foreign themes. There's an expertise and a tastemaker component to the job of various acquiring editors. There are some publishers who specialize, but generally speaking, the names that you see on the spines of your book and on the copyright pages and title pages represent a large publisher with an imprint. Otherwise, in a different industry, might be called a subsidiary that is specializing in a certain category of book.
Got it. Now, how do you typically interact with your authors? For people out there who want to know, what role does the agent have? Because I kind of see you as a coach, as a mentor, as a guide, as a, hey, Mr. Author, hey, Mrs. Author, you need to do this. You're kind of like I see you as someone that collaborates. I see so many cool things. But can you explain how you see it?
Well, in my view, an agent is meant to be your strategy partner, someone who bridges the gap between your interests and what trade publishing can sell. In the best situation, your agent is a roll-up-her-sleeves guide into a new world, and she wants to know what you're most passionate about, but also what part of that fits into your bigger life. What's the version of your writing that will work with your current everyday life? That's the book that you will sell.
There we go.
And then will continue selling because you won't have to go out of your way to promote this other product that you've created in partnership with a publisher. My job is to remind you of the path that's going to keep you consistent with what you already do in your everyday life. It doesn't help you if I sell a great book for you that starts a new business that you don't have time to run.
Now,
and so my job is to be an advisor.
You're an advisor, and I think that I hope the listeners are getting this. You're definitely not wanting to create cognitive dissonance for their listener for your authors, where they're writing a book that they can't consistently and sustainably promote because it's not really who they are. I mean, you do a great job of that, and I think somebody out there is going, okay, EFOT seems like this lady. All the listeners have been Googling you. I know they have. They Google. They tell me all the time. They say, I always Google your listeners and check them out. When they're Googling you, I've never met an EFOT before. Have you met any other EFOTs?
EFOT is a name that was popular for 5 minutes in the era and never really took off. So I have met a few, but we're a limited edition, and we all basically know one another.
Nice. Okay, so what is the biggest adversity that you've had to fight through during your career, Miss EFOT Limited Edition?
I think that compromise in relationships with those around you is mandatory, but being uncompromising in what you want for yourself, that's been my biggest career lesson, and embracing an uncompromising attitude about what I know to be right for myself has been the secret to any success that I've had.
So you know what you and your husband want out of this game called life. You know what you want, and you're saying that sometimes the world doesn't want that for you, and you're uncompromising. Like, could you give me an example of something that maybe that nothing super personal, I guess, but something that you're not going to compromise on professionally, or something that you're just like, I'm not morally or personally or professionally going to compromise here, and maybe sometimes people want to, have you compromise there.
So I represent the now late but great comic book creator Stan Lee. And I was approached by Stan and his co-authors to represent what would be Stan's first adult long-form novel. So if you know anything about Mr. Lee, he has generated more value for in IP than any other content creator on the planet, in excess of $40 billion. And yet, despite being a tremendous lover of reading and literature, he had never written a long-form novel, like a real adult long-form novel that could also apply for kids as well. Though they had many licensed products that were very popular, and I was charged with creating, a situation where he would have a great relationship with a traditional trade publisher. Now, here's the rub. Nobody saw him that way. His writing was amazing. The work that he did with his co-authors was next level. But convincing publishers that he could produce a work of fiction of the quality that I knew that he would was asking them to take a leap based on materials that they were not used to buying, based on the kind of materials that I had to show. And so I did something non-traditional. I went to Stan and his co-authors, and I proposed that we do the deal in a non-traditional way. I suggested that maybe we first introduce comic book fans who are used to a shorter form of fandom, right, supporting their love of Stan's work, and of course Stan has always worked with collaborators, with an audio original that would bridge the gap between comic book fans and long-form fiction fans. And we did a really kind of a first-of-its-kind deal with Audible, which is a veteran of the publishing industry. And the idea was that the story would be told and would only be available in long form as an original on the Audible in the Audible ecosystem for some period of time, and then it would be followed by a traditional publishing book in the U.S., in Canada, and then all over the world in translated rights.
Got it.
And guess what? I did that first deal, and then crickets. I still had to sell that. It was about a tremendous deal. It got all kinds of buzz. Mr. Lee was super happy, as were his collaborators. But it was still on my to-do list to sell traditional trade publishing. Once I'd exploited audio, which is something that traditional trade publishing now wants to acquire alongside the print and ebook rights, it was even more difficult to sell publishing rights, print publishing rights. But I didn't compromise. There are many times where I could have just given up, and I knew I had something fantastic and that I would help my industry understand that this was a voice that was ready to be heard in long form. And I waited until I found the perfect partner for Stan, which turned out to be the same print publisher of Margaret Atwood's Handmaid's Tale and the Tolkien estate, and that's Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. And I'm so delighted to say that the results were even more amazing than I could have imagined. And of course, the client was delighted.
You are a unicorn. You're a proactive person. You're a business woman. And I think there's a lot of women listening now who are saying, I want to be proactive. I want to be a proactive businesswoman. And unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, I would just say we have more male guests than female guests, not because it's a plan of mine. I tend to hang out with more dudes, and there's more women in the workplace that are moving on up. And could you give some advice to the female listeners specifically out there about how you've been able to stay a proactive person, and how do you typically spend the first 4 hours of your day? I mean, what time are you waking up? What's your routine?
So my best days begin when I can start earlier than when I'm expected to show up for my family or for the office, obviously, and take a few minutes for myself in the morning. By the way, when I say minutes, it could be a few minutes to many minutes, really to think about and think ahead to what I want to achieve in my day. If I'm able to just pause rather than hit the ground running and really sort of struggling, if I could pause, plan, just review my calendar, and then think about what I want to achieve for every one of those meetings or calls, but then also what I want to get out of them, right, with what I want to give and what I want to get. Where I'm really very clear about that energy exchange, I just observe that the whole day turns out better. I feel like I've entered my day with intention.
Yep.
As opposed to constantly trying to catch up.
So what time do you wake up normally? What's your normal?
I have to be downstairs and supporting the sort of greater family at 7. When I do things right, I should be getting up at 6.
Got it.
If I'm not traveling, that's the ideal time for me to wake up.
And what are a few of your daily habits that you believe that have allowed you to achieve success? Are you still on the kale-only diet? Are you still only eating kale?
I don't only eat kale.
Okay.
If you're going to treat yourself as a machine that you expect to work at 100%, the people who I admire the most and who are the most productive regard that machine with respect. And that means that they set themselves up to win. Any of us who are not teenagers anymore probably have observed that their body operates, optimally with some kind of food or some amount of water or some kind of caffeine or whatever it is that works for you. And just as I would want to think ahead about my day and sort of set myself up to win, making those same decisions that I know set me up to win from a fuel perspective, kind of makes sense, doesn't it? When I do that, my day is supercharged.
Now, my final 2 rapid-fire questions for you, Miss Supercharged, one of a kind, limited edition EFOT. Final 2 questions. What is an idiosyncrasy that you have that's kind of like your superpower? Steve Jobs wore the same thing every day. I stole that move. I know entrepreneurs who, live by their phone. That's their super move. They're very responsive. Some entrepreneurs that keep their phone off. That's their super move. Some entrepreneurs that have a certain workout routine or a certain mantra, a certain flow. What is your idiosyncrasy that allows you to be super successful? What's maybe one of them?
I think that the ability to, the inability to listen to something without also thinking, what if? So there's the way the path is conveyed, right? So here's the path that's being laid out in front of me, and I'm supposed to be doing this. But there's an obstinate kid inside me that loves asking, what if? What if we didn't go that way? What if we went the other way? And that kind of squeaky wheel that likes to be a troublemaker, likes to see the alternative road into any one of the subjects that I sell books in. That troublemaker continues to be my best asset.
Boom. Okay, my final question for you here. Final question here on the Super EFOT edition, limited edition of the Thrive Time Show on your radio and podcast download. EFOT, what is a message or a principle that you would like to teach all of our listeners? Maybe if you could just send everybody a quick text message. You're like, hey, boom, I'd want to teach you this move. Here's a little deep thought. Maybe here's a quote. Maybe here's a book you should read. Is there any? What's the message or the principle that you'd like to teach all of our listeners if you had the chance?
Well, I've already told you that one of my favorite things to do is to always ask pretty much anyone, whether they're in my industry or not, whether they're junior or senior to me or not, what their advice is. I'm a big believer in asking other people's advice. It's up to me to ask, to determine whether it's good advice or not. But, it's never hurt me to ask others. But I think the other piece of it that must exist in order for any of that to make sense is this idea that you already know. I mean, most of us fail to listen and to honor the knowing in each of us. And I feel like as I become more confident in my ability to deliver success for my authors, the more I honor the knowing in myself that if I really reflect back, kind of had the answer for me all along. And I think that's a gift that you should be giving to yourself every day.
I'm going to have to listen to this show 2 or 3 times, and then when my head explodes each time, I'm going to duct tape it back together. So next time I talk to you, I can have a functional conversation. But you are blowing my mind. I just want to tell you thank you so much for taking your time to meet and connect with our listeners and to share your heart and your time. And I know you've got an incredible husband and a great family, and I know he wants to chase you around. So I'm going to let you get back to what you're doing. But I thank you so much for your time.
It's my pleasure, and thanks so much for having me on. I'm a huge fan.
If you're out there today and you've yet to go to foundrymedia.com, I encourage you to do so. Go up there and then click on the team, and you can see the amazing team they've built up there at Foundry Media. And click on the books, and you can see all the best-selling books that they've written. It is truly impressive what Efot and her team have been able to build over these years. It's just an incredible success story, and I encourage you to believe in yourself and to believe that you have what it takes to become the next great success story too. Don't stop. This is your year to thrive, and we would love to see you at our next in-person Thrive Time Show workshop. And now, without any further ado, we like to end each and every show with a boom, because boom stands for big, overwhelming, optimistic momentum. And so here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom. On today's show, we are interviewing Esther Federkevich, who's the founder of the Fed Literary Agency. Over the years, the Fed Agency has represented such best-selling authors as Pastor Jensen Franklin, Mark Batterson, Tim Tebow, Jackie Velasquez, Justin Bieber's mom, Pastor Stephen Furtick, and countless best-selling authors that you know. And on today's show, Esther joins us to talk about the importance of fearless cold calling and how she helps her big-time clients take their big ideas and turn them into best-selling books.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
Now, 3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, 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 and yes. It's normally ecstasy when Zia's next to me, but Josh, you're a good plan B.
Whoa.
No, I'm serious. You are a plan B.
Like a plan C?
Aaron's always been my plan C.
Ooh.
If my marriage doesn't work out, I turn to Josh. And if Josh says, we've talked about this, I turn to Aaron.
Yeah. And I've got an open door for you.
Thank you so much. Whoa, Shunda. Whoa. And on today's show, inside the studio, we happen to have one of the top literary agents on the planet. Esther, welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Can you share with the listeners where you are from? Where do you call home?
I'm from Austin, Texas.
And what do you do for a living? How do you procure your income?
I own a literary and entertainment agency. I represent authors on their books.
So how long have you been doing this?
17 years.
And I'm gonna pull up some books here. I'm gonna show the cover of the book to the cameras, and you tell me if you had anything to do with this book here. Okay. So this book here, it's a book by Tim Tebow called "This Is the Day." Did you have anything to do with this book?
Yes, it's amazing.
What is your role in a book like this? When a book, we go to the bookstore, we buy it. What is your role in getting this book from the mind of Tim Tebow into the hands of the buyers?
So first, Timmy and I and a big team, we talk about a bunch of ideas and see what he wants to write about, and we pick out the best idea, and then we shop it to publishers and get him the best deal possible.
I feel like
That's what we're going to do for you, Clay.
Thank you so much. I'm excited about
You
this.
take it to a lot of publishers, and then you see who wants you the most.
Is he as nice? 'Cause my wife and I think he's the nicest man ever, and we've
He is.
met a few people that know of him or have been with him. They all say he's nicer than you think, and we already think he's super nice. How would you describe the character or the personality of Mr. Timmy Tebow, as you call him?
He's the real deal. I mean, he really lives and walks the walk. He loves Jesus, is an amazing athlete, and just amazing person. I think there are so many moms that want to raise a son just like him. and he just has character, and it's hard to find that anymore. And for an athlete to have that kind of character, it's impressive.
So how do you work with an athlete like this? Do you cold call them? Do they call you? I mean, now you have so many big authors you represent, but when you were first getting started, how did you land your first big author?
Cold calling and reading a lot of articles and finding out ideas. And then we would say, that's a good book idea. We study the New York Times bestseller list.
Yeah.
So we're seeing what people are buying and why they're buying it. And then we try to find people to fit that.
So you study the New York Times bestsellers list. And then you were sharing with the team this morning that I think Tim McGraw was one of your first big authors.
Yes, we did a book from a movie called Flicka. He had a song in it called My Little Girl, and we did a children's book series called My Little Girl.
When you're around some of these people, initially, I know you're kind of probably numb to it now, but the first time when you're around Tim McGraw or some of these big names, were you nervous at all?
No.
Really?
Never nervous.
What, are you missing your amygdala? What is wrong?
No, I just look at them like they're regular people, just like me.
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't bother you at all?
Nope.
That is amazing. So you again, and how did someone like yourself make money doing this? And then what all do you do? I mean, what all are you? Do you help edit the books? Do you help lay the books out?
I am the salesperson in marketing, branding, but I have a great team that are amazing editors that will work with the authors on actually their grammar and copy editing and making sure their T's are crossed and their I's are dotted and they sound great. We also have a team of ghostwriters that write books with our authors, and I mean, it takes a lot of people to put a book together.
What do you love about being a book agent, a literary agent?
Always been my favorite thing is seeing that book from the beginning process when we're talking and finally seeing in the airport or in a bookstore. It's super exciting. I was just on a plane coming here, and somebody was reading one of my author's books,
cool.
a Mark Batterson Circle Maker book, and I just started a conversation. I'm like, hey, what do you like about the book? What chapter are you on? I read that book, and it's just pretty amazing when you see your book in hands of people.
In this book here, The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson, this is the book you're referencing here?
Mm-hmm.
And someone was reading this on the plane?
Yeah.
Did that make you nervous?
No.
Does flying make you nervous?
No.
Do you feel or know what the word nervous means overall? I mean,
I'm not a very nervous person.
Now, I understand that you are an absolute Viking woman when it comes to cold calling. That you'll just pick up the phone and call anybody. There's something to learn out there for the listeners. What would you say to a listener out there they know they need to make calls, and they're a little bit afraid of it? Because Aaron Antis is going to ask you questions about being an agent, and Josh is too. These are Christian guys. They probably own the books that you're putting out there. What would you say to someone who's afraid of making cold calls?
What's the worst they could do? Say no? I honestly, so what, right? They say no, you just pick up the phone again and you call. I believe that I can get to any single person. I don't think that you could tell me any name and give me a couple weeks, and I bet I could get a call to them.
I just love that attitude. Aaron Antis, you run Oklahoma's largest home building company. You and I have worked together, and it's so fun to see the company grow now to $81 million of annual revenue from 24. We're on pace to do 120-ish this year, maybe more than that.
Even more than that.
One question as we do rapid fire, final 90 seconds. What question would you have here for one of America's top literary agents?
So if I was going to write a book today, what would be the best path for me to take if I just wanted to get it out there and I had an awesome message that I wanted to share with people? What would be the path I would take? Because I do believe I have a story I'd love to tell, but I don't know if people want to hear it. So what's that path look like?
Well, great question. I believe everyone has a story. Now, everyone has a story to tell. I wish that I got my grandfather's story before he died of how he came to this country. We're first generation born here. My grandfather was from Russia, and I'm like, why didn't I get that story down? And I'm a literary agent. I mean, just for the sake of my kids and grandkids to know that story. So first thing to do is go to thefedagency.com. And you can go into submissions and set, or me now, so you could just talk to me. But we have a whole publishing program that is called Agent Managed Publishing.
Got it.
And we help people get their books out, and it's out in 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And so I think of a book as like a $5 business card. We just did a book for a big builder out of Phoenix, Arizona, and it was amazing. He uses it as just to get more big, clients and homes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's
Which
just
is what
his
I think
story.
you should do for
Yeah.
real.
And I really
your
do
story.
think you should do that. And if it takes off, then we're able to then go sell it to a publisher.
Well, I've been telling my wife I'm a really big deal for a lot of years, so this way I can really confirm that for her. So,
okay.
That would be my main reason
Now-
is just to stay married
Okay.
for.
We have 60 seconds left for our final questions here. This book here, Acres of Diamonds, this is another book that our guest here today has also represented. And people want to know, they're looking you up right now, how do you pronounce your last name? What's the proper pronunciation of your last name? Because you go by the Fed agency, making it easy for us. But
Yes.
What's the real pronunciation of your last name?
Federkevich.
Federkevich?
Yep.
Esther Federkevich. Esther Federkevich. Okay, so what is your final question here, Josh, with Living Water Irrigations for Esther Federkevich?
So I know you say you don't get nervous. Did you get nervous when you met Clay?
Nope.
She just
Darn
booed.
it.
She booed me. She was underwhelmed.
He's super fun though, and his
So-
whole office is like so energetic, and they're like boom this and boom that. I mean, how can you not like him?
So real
lot
quick.
of
So we
boom.
were talking off the air. You were saying whenever you got started, you were doing the 80 to 100 hours a week. So can you encourage maybe that young mother out there that's listening, or one of those listeners out there that's like, that's not ethical? Can you talk about what it took to get to where you're at and where you're at now?
It takes a lot of hustle. I mean, I think if you really want something and you really believe in yourself, you have to hustle. I feel like so many people quit before their miracle. I mean, I can tell you, just they
that's
quit,
good.
they quit, or they want to do something but they don't follow through. I mean, if you really want something, I was up early in the morning, waited while my kids were still sleeping, and then when they were at school, I called myself an empty nester because I could work from 7 a.m. to 3 while they were in school all day. And while they were napping, I would be doing phone calls. While they went to bed at 7 or 8 at night, I was working till 1 in the morning. I mean, I was living off of little sleep, but I believed in what I was doing. And I think so many people they think there's this easy road that they're going to get rich quick and somehow do it in a 4-hour work week. Come on. It's
Right.
it's not going to happen. Every business, everybody that I know that's been really successful has put in the effort.
I appreciate you so much for being here that I don't want you to miss your plane. So we're going to head off
Thanks.
now. But again,
Thanks,
thank you
guys.
so much. And we'll end the show with a boom. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom. Shunda.
If you don't understand you're the one, you won't understand why you're being attacked like you're being attacked. Whenever the enemy knows that the one is coming, he always sets traps to stop them from succeeding because they're the one. And to him whom much is given, much is required. And so the text starts out talking about Abraham because Abraham is the one. And Abraham had to move out from his country and away from his kindred because he was the one. So he was a misfit because he was the one. So he didn't get to stay because he was the one. So he had to live in isolation because he was the one. So he probably was lonely because he was the one. Because he was the one. Because he was the one.
New city, new state, it's gonna be a mean race. All the sins that I have done, I'm grateful for a clean slate. Felt like I was different, I ain't never tried to prove it though. Stack your chips, get on your grind, don't never make excuses, bro. Solid as a rock, loyalty is all I ever know. Doing what you've always done, then homie, you can never grow. Conversations with the Lord, I ask him would I ever blow. Told me I got dead weight, so friends, I gotta let them go. We gon' make it. I know they hating, it's all in their faces. We destined for greatness. I said, I've been patient. I know it's my moment, no stopping, we going, this thing is in motion. What you gon' do when your back's against the wall? You gon' stand up like a champ or you gon' curl up in the ball? I'm the one, I've been chosen, so I'm riding through it all. Gotta keep your faith up so you can rise and never fall. Let's go.
And Abraham had to move out from his country and away from his kindred because he was the one. So he didn't get to stay with his kinfolks because he was the one. They are always on the hit list because hell knows that he is the one. I want to talk to some people that have been up under crazy attack. And to him whom much is given, much is required.
The devil's been attacking, I ain't stressing from it. Cause every time that happens, there's a blessing coming. Obsessing over problems that you can't change. I have you going crazy, learn your lesson from it. Remember when they cut my water off, homie? Man, reflecting how they cut my lights off too. Dog, I had to move back in with my mama. Had me feeling like a failure, that's what life would do. Gotta get up on your grind, I had to make the right move. Ramen noodles every night, I had some beans and rice too. Execution is the key, don't tell me what you might do. Favor from the man above, no other God is like you. You can knock me down, but I promise I ain't staying there. Feeling like I am the one, we just begun, let's make it clear. Me and Clay clicking up, y'all don't even get it, bruh. About to be colossal, taking over when we rip it up, hey.
And Abraham had to move out from his country and away from his kindred because he was the one. So he didn't get to stay with his kinfolks because he was the one. They are always on the hit list because hell knows that he is the one. I want to talk to some people that have been up under crazy attack. And to him whom much is given, much is required.
Yeah, started from the bottom, now I'm here. Overnight success after 23 years. Got the dragon energy, got another gear. Got a superpower, man, I call persevere. Cause I never haven't thought people call fear. I never stopped grinding when the future's not clear. We're gonna be dead soon and I'm just being real. So I'll be paralyzed by the thoughts that we feel.
So you'll stop begging for people to come into agreement with you. So you'll stop doing polls and census and trying to get everybody to come into consensus with your vision so that you won't need nobody to say amen when you preach, because you already know that you got heaven saying amen.
On today's show, we are joined by the New York Times best-selling author who has sold over 12 million copies of his books. His book titles include The Subtle Art of Not Giving a and the best-selling book, Everything is Also, Mark Manson is the author of Models, Attract Women Through Honesty. And on today's show, he joins us to share about the following topics and much, much more.
And I read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek, and I had messed around with some web design and stuff when I was in school, and I read that book, and I'm like, that's it. I'm going to start a web business, and then I'm going to go sit on a beach. The funny thing about that book is that he doesn't tell you is that you make money while you sleep because you're working 16 hours a day to build websites.
Right. How many blogs did you write before you had any kind of traction at all?
Oh God, 100, 50, 100. You know, it's funny. I get asked all the time. People come to me and they say, you know, I want to start a blog or I want to start a YouTube channel. It's probably similar with you. Like, I want to start a podcast. Oh, yeah. And my go-to answer is I say, write 50 posts and then come ask again, and I'm happy to help you. And I think in the last, you know, when it comes to content businesses like these, they don't blow up overnight. That's just the nature of them. Like, you're not going to really hit scale for like a year or two. I started online in 2008, and that was 2011 when I had like my own product, and I was making I could live off of the money I was making from my own thing for the first time. You know, if you cleaned up your language, more people would read you, which I find hilarious, by the way, because I've sold like 12 million books, but we have to train ourselves to begin to ignore them and to sift through all of kind of the junk diet of information and hone in on the sources that we trust, that are very good, that are very well thought out, and very, very productive, not just for us, but for other people as well.
All this and more on today's interview with best-selling author Mark Manson.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, and yes. Thrive Nation, on today's show, we are interviewing one of my favorite authors, the author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Mark Manson. Welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
I'm great. It's good to be here.
Hey, your little orange-covered book is all over the place. Every time I go to the airport, every time I go to Barnes & Noble, every time I go anywhere, that orange-covered book is everywhere. Does it blow your mind to see your book everywhere?
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
It's wild. It's wild. I mean, you've had a ton of success, but I'd love to start at the bottom of at the very bottom, the very beginning.
Sure.
And kind of share your story of how you grew up and when you figured out what you actually wanted to do professionally.
Huh. So I had a pretty typical, middle class background. Went to college. When I was in college, I thought I was going to go into finance, and then I happened to graduate into the crash of 2008. So that didn't work out so well. And so I was bumming around for about a year, just taking odd jobs. And I read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week. And I had messed around with some web design and stuff when I was in school. And I read that book and I'm like, that's it. That's it. I'm going to start a web business, and then I'm going to go sit on a beach, and life's going to be easy. And the funny thing about that book is that he doesn't tell you is that you make money while you sleep because you're working 16 hours a day to build websites.
Right.
So it's I spent the next couple years doing that, and then eventually, kind of the thing that stuck was like a dating relationship advice website, and from there I started writing. I started blogging because back in the day, back in like 2010 or whatever, blogging was like the hot new thing you had to do if you wanted to get traffic.
It was the move.
And then from there, the blogging took off, and next thing I know, I'm being read by like hundreds of thousands, millions of people. And from there, I get a book deal, and it's just like, it's been crazy. It's been a really crazy ride.
My mind exploded. Now, I want to ask this because somebody out there needs to get the little kick in the tail they need here. When you sat down to start blogging, bro, how many blogs did you write before you had any kind of traction at all? You know what I mean? Like how many blogs do you have to sit there? Because when you write it, it's like kind of putting a message in the bottle out there for those who don't know how search engines work. But I mean, how many blogs did you have to write before you got any feedback at all?
Oh God, 100, 50, 100. It's funny. I get asked all the time. People come to me and they say, I want to start a blog, or I want to start a YouTube channel. It's probably similar with you. Like, I want to start a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And my go-to answer is I say, write 50 posts and then come ask again, and I'm happy to help you. And I think in the last 6 or 7 years that I've been saying that, maybe one person has actually come back with 50 posts written. In the last 6 or 7 years that I've been saying that, maybe one person has actually come back with 50 posts written.
In the last 6 or 7 years that I've been saying that, maybe one person has actually come back with 50 posts written.
My partner and I, Dr. Zellner, between the two of us, we've built 16 multi-million-dollar companies. So there's an optometry clinic, and there's a brick-and-mortar men's haircut chain, and different actual brick-and-mortar companies, And we only did the podcast because people kept asking, can I pick your brain? Can I pick your brain? And we thought, well, hey, we'll do a podcast. That way when people say, can I pick your brain, there's a way to, give them our brain without giving them our time necessarily. And we just now have passed the 2,000 show mark. And I don't think, Mark, we had any feedback from anybody at all until about 100 shows in. It's the craziest thing ever. Even though we'd had, quote unquote, some success, it's like, is anybody listening? And you check how many downloads, and it's like, look, you downloaded it and I downloaded it. That's 2 downloads. So how did you keep yourself? Encouraged during that time before you gained traction?
Well, I think when it comes to content businesses like these, they don't blow up overnight. That's just the nature of them. Like, you're not gonna really hit scale for like a year or two. And so the piece of advice I always give is like, okay, if you want to start like a YouTube channel or a blog or whatever, great. But like, you need to plan on that not being your main gig for the first year or two. You need something else going on, some sort of back end or some sort of like associated business that you're also trying to build. Because I just think people see the result. They see where I am now 10 years later. They see where you are however many years later, and they just assume like, oh, that's they think that's going to happen 6 months from now, and
right.
And it's a slow burn.
How did you, or when did you first monetize your blog in any capacity? Was it like an advertiser? Was it somebody who hired you for some consulting? Do you remember the first time? I just want to know how long it took you to monetize it in some capacity, because there's somebody out there I want to encourage right now.
So initially my blogging, I'd say the first 2 years, my blogging was just used to get traffic and to promote, to basically do affiliate marketing. So to promote other people's products, other people's books, things like that. Yeah. I started a number of blogs to do that, and they all made a little bit of money, not much. But then the dating relationship thing started to take off. And so after a couple of years, I decided, I should create my own product and then start promoting that. And so that was, I started online in 2008, and that was 2011 when I had like my own product, and I was making like, I could live off of the money I was making from my own thing for the first time.
What was your first product for the people out there who are not familiar with your story?
So I wrote a men's dating book.
Yeah.
Basically, because most of my readers at the time, I was like 25, 26. And so most of my readers at the time were around the same age. They're single guys. And so I wrote a men's dating book and just self-published it, threw it up on Amazon. And to my surprise, it did super well. It's still doing well.
Models Attract Women Through Honesty. Is that the book?
Yes.
Okay. And so you wrote this. Now you start monetizing. So it took a couple of years to start monetizing this thing, and then my understanding is that you felt inspired to write a blog one day. That you decided it was going to be the most offensive blog ever written, potentially. I don't know if that was your goal. Tell us what happened the day you woke up and thought, you know what, I'm going to write this blog post.
Sure. Well, I'll throw in just really quick. There was a transition in there around 2013. So one thing I always did is I would start with like a super niche market. And then once I kind of saturated that, I would pivot into a bigger market. So, I started with like young men's dating advice. And then I went to just general dating relationship advice for men and women. And then I went from there into kind of the self-help market at large. And that whole process was probably like a 5-year process to build up that audience, like one step at a time. And so jump ahead to 2015 and my blog had caught on pretty well. I was getting probably 1.5 million readers each month. And I sat down. I was in a really cranky mood, and I had a title. I keep this sheet in my phone with like title ideas and article ideas and things like that. And I had this idea that had been sitting in my phone for a long time, and it was called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***. And I'd never really known what to write for that. It just kind of sat there. And then one day I was feeling kind of bummed out and angry and snarky, and decided I'm going to write an article, and it's going to say many times as I possibly could say it. But it's also going to give some of the best life advice that I can possibly give to people. And the goal was to just like scramble people's brains, like leave them in a state of like, right, well, this is so offensive, but it's actually really good, and I don't know what to do with myself. And that kind of cognitive dissonance it took off. It was absolutely crazy. I think that article itself ended up getting more than 10 million page views the first month.
I have a Judeo-Christian background. That's kind of my worldview, and I know it seems that a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving probably doesn't have a whole lot to do with my worldviews, but there was a Bible verse that I love, Matthew 5:10, that said, "Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Essentially, if you stand up for something, somebody is going to persecute you. Someone's going to be upset about it. No matter what values you pick. And I think your book is very emotionally liberating for a lot of people of all faiths and all backgrounds. Do you get that a lot? Do you hear people tell you that it's emotionally liberating for people to embrace that by standing up for something, somebody's going to be pissed off about it?
Absolutely. And I get that. I get the religious thing too. I did a couple podcasts with I did a couple Christian podcasts with pastors.
Yeah.
One of them said that he regularly recommended the book to his congregation. I hear that from Muslims too. from Buddhists. It's really that part really surprised me because it is a secular book. It's not religious at all, but I think so many of the life lessons are just so fundamental and part of the human experience that they're reflected in each of the religions.
Have you spent a lot of time studying the origins of the word?
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
So as you can imagine, I get the criticism all the time. You know, if you cleaned up your language, more people would read you, which I find hilarious, by the way, because
Yes.
I've sold like 12 million books. But I get that email constantly. And so like 3 or 4 years ago, I researched profanity and vulgarity, and
Yes.
and I wrote a post about it, kind of explaining like, okay, this is why I use this language. And it's
Yeah.
a very, like, I'm not using it because I'm just an idiot who can't think of other words. Like, I'm using it very pointedly and intentionally
Yes.
to kind of like slap people in the face a little bit. And it was interesting because most of what we consider vulgar today, it's only been considered offensive for the last 80 to 100 years or so. And it's really funny if you go back to like the 1700s or 1600s.
Yeah.
What was considered offensive back then is completely different. Like I discovered that in 16th century or 17th century England, the most offensive word you could say was occupy.
It's crazy. Occupy?
Occupy. It was like the most scandalous thing that you could possibly utter. I was
Occupy.
like, you know, it just shows you how arbitrary these things are. You know, words are just they're words, and the meaning, the significance we put on them, like we're choosing to put that significance on them, and the meaning evolves.
The first time somebody told me what it meant, they told me about this Scottish poem, I guess, that came out in 1500, like maybe 1503, 1505, something like that, where in the poem, the guy uses this acronym, and, you know, fornication under consent of the king, you know, because basically back in the day, if you wanted to have extramarital sex, or you wanted to just be a man whore, you could pay an indulgence for the right to do that, you know? And so he came up with this acronym, you know, which stood for fornication under consent of the king. And I just think it's interesting how a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a could teach my favorite Bible verse, Matthew 5:10. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of their righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. I mean, seriously, it's like your book is phenomenal. Now, in your book, and I want to talk about your new book too, but in the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a you write, the act of choosing a value for yourself requires alternative values. If I choose to make my marriage the most important part of my life, that means I'm probably choosing to not make cocaine-fueled hooker orgies an important part of my life. I'd love for you to break down where you see most people struggling to reject alternative values in this world of political correctness.
Oh man, I think one of the things that I raised throughout the book is that I think people are very. So there are two things that I think happen a lot today. One is that that we simply aren't aware of our values. I think part of it is just all the distraction from all the technology and phones and blah blah blah. Like we become so caught up in just this like autopilot that we don't even realize what our priorities are a lot of the time. And then I think the second thing that happens a lot, and I think this is driven primarily by social media, is that we like to portray certain values, perhaps online, or to each other, that we don't necessarily live or embody or act in our real life. And I think the problem is that the media and the kind of the social media, but just the media environment in general, is rewarding that right now. So it's rewarding kind of like self-righteousness and moral outrage, and it promotes that kind of behavior and that kind of attitude towards people. And I think the right has had its own dose of that in the last 10 years, but I think right now it's the left's turn to like really just scold everybody as if they're everybody's mother or something like that.
I have a funny story for you, and this I think you would like this, Mark. And Mark, you are kind of to blame for this. Your book is, okay? One of my clients, if you get a chance to Google search him, his name is Steve Currington. And if you Google search Tulsa mortgages, like you're looking for a mortgage to buy a house, his company, Total Lending Concepts, comes up top in the Google search results. And he's been a client of mine for 5 years, and now he did $251 million of mortgages last year. You know, and he gets 1.75% on all that. He's doing great. Long story short is he bought a Lamborghini. That was one of his goals, you know, to buy this neon green Lamborghini. And right away, just having a Lamborghini pisses people off. I mean, there are certain people that are mad and certain people that want to get a photo. But now in a town like Tulsa with 500,000 people, everybody knows him. Now, he is a very pro-Trump kind of guy. That's kind of his worldview is pro-Trump, you know. And so he recently auto-wrapped his car, a Lamborghini, with Trump and his crazy hair all over the car. And it's the crazy. No, I'm not kidding. And if you go to YouTube and go to Lambros right now on YouTube, it's Lambros, Lambros. He has millions of people that want to see this Lamborghini with the Trump wig on it. And it's the craziest thing because it looks like he turned Donald Trump into an action hero. It's amazing. It just screams a Trump-tastic America. And it's just it's American flags and eagles, and there's a big wall, you know, going around our country, and it's this craziest thing ever. And he gets people that will clap and boo, but it causes people to react. Why is it so powerful? I mean, I just would like you to explain this because you've studied the science of this, I'm sure. But why is it that everybody in a town like Tulsa is going to know the guy with the Lamborghini with Trump on it, and no one's going to remember the guy with the Honda with nothing on it because he doesn't want to offend anybody? You know what I mean? Like if you had a Lamborghini with Bernie Sanders on it, why does everybody remember that and no one remembers the guy with the Honda and the conservative black so no one gets offended?
Well, we tend to remember things that cause an emotional reaction. And we also tend to overestimate the importance of things that cause an emotional reaction. So like, for instance, this is why everybody's freaked out about like the coronavirus, because it's very scary when like the flu kills 10 times more people every single year after year after year. It's that the flu is very boring and quotidian and not very exciting. So we forget about it. We don't pay attention to it. You know, and this is one thing that I write about a lot. It's just that our human faculties are very flawed. We're very we didn't really evolve for truth. We evolved for survival. And so a lot of the way our perceptions work, our memory works, our emotions work, can actually work against us in a lot of ways, especially when we live in such a complex world where we have to deal with so many different kinds of people. So it's one of my kind of missions in life is to just make people more aware of how flawed their psychology is and make them aware of, like, you know, how a green Lamborghini with Trump on it driving by can like set them off one way or another. And like that, it doesn't matter. Like it's just a car.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just completely unimportant.
I've seen people so outraged, even before he auto-wrapped it with the Trump stuff. I've seen people outraged that he even has a car that costs that much. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's just wild how there's that. We want to be outraged. You know, in your book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***, we are defined by what we choose to reject. And if we reject nothing, we essentially have no identity at all. So I'll pick on myself. I have 5 kids. They're great kids. And I have one wife. We've been married almost 20 years. And I drive a Hummer, and I live on a ton of land. I mean, just a ton of land, you know, thousands of trees. That's kind of my thing. And I sort of reject a lot of things, but I wasn't aware of it until I'd read your book, how many things I reject. So I don't participate in social media except to put out content. I don't respond to stuff. I don't go out to eat when requested to. You know, people ask me to go out to eat. I don't do it. I just don't. I invite people to my house, but I don't go out to eat. I never meet alone with women because I know myself and I just kind of want to, you know, we're 3 or more gathered. I feel better about life as a married guy, for me personally, you know. And I have these certain things that I do. And I didn't realize how much it irritated some people that I have these certain rules I live by. Can you talk to me about, or talk to the listeners out there about some of the things that maybe we need to reject to become happier people? Like, what are some of the things that we need to, that maybe the average listener needs to start rejecting to get to maybe to be more at peace?
I think the big thing I propose all the time is we need to develop a habit to become kind of merciless with the information that we consume. I draw an analogy with the 1950s and 60s. So like when industrialized food blew up and suddenly like everybody can go to the grocery store and get Twinkies and TV dinners and all this stuff. Like for the first time in human history, like there's just this overabundance of really, really sweet and salty food for very cheap. And so for the first time ever, we had to learn how to manage our eating habits, manage our nutrition, manage our diet, start exercising, things like that. Like it's a skill that we had to develop as a culture in reaction to the abundance that we produced. And I think the same thing is happening today with the internet and information. There's this overabundance of information. There is the Twinkie equivalent of, shocking YouTube video or, upsetting tweet that just went out today. And it's our mind, it craves those things because they're very easy and they're very satisfying for a short period of time. But we have to train ourselves to begin to ignore them and to sift through all of kind of the junk diet of information and hone in on the sources that we trust, that are very good, that are very well thought out, and very, very productive, not just for us, but for other people as well. And so like I've kind of been on a crusade about that. And I don't, for some people that means getting rid of all social media. I don't necessarily, some people need some degree of social media to keep in touch with certain people or for work or for whatever. But for me, it's like there should be a really, really strong screening mechanism of what you let onto your newsfeed, what you let into your inbox. There should be a really, really strong screening mechanism of what you let onto your newsfeed, what you let into your inbox. There should be a really, really strong screening mechanism of what you let onto your newsfeed, what you let into your inbox. And if you're a guy with 5 kids, I totally get it. Who you go to dinner with or how often you go out for dinners. Time is really the only truly scarce resource in this world. And so you need to protect it and you need to take care of it.
Well, there was an article that Paul Graham, the guy behind Airbnb and Dropbox and Reddit, that he sent out a tweet to an article that appeared in The Guardian called "Our Minds Can Be Hijacked: The Tech Insiders Who Fear a Smartphone Dystopia." And in that book, in the article, Justin Rosenstein, who created that Facebook like button, he was explaining how just some of the statistics that are out there and why he personally is now trying to avoid using smartphones and apps and that kind of. This is the guy who invented the Facebook like button. But he said the average person now taps their phone or swipes it 2,617 times a day. And Nielsen now shows the average person is on their phone 11.3 hours a day. And I just find it's like, Psychology Today has articles about this. What advice would you have for somebody out there who feels, maybe the business owners out there who feel, they own a bakery, they own a plumbing business, they own a doctor's office, a law firm, something like that. And every time they look at their phone, there's a bad review or a good review. There's a bad comment or a good comment. And they got all the apps set up there. They got all the push notifications going on. And therefore they can never actually be happy because they're in this permanent dystopia, seeking universal praise. What advice would you have for the business owner out there who's got thousands of data points coming in a day and they're just letting those push notifications push their brain around?
Outsource it. I especially as an author and somebody who's very prominent on social media, I have very strict rules for myself in terms of like, it happens about once or twice a year where like I will somehow end up scrolling into the reviews of my own books. And as I'm doing it, I'm like, why are you doing this, Mark? Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Yes. And sure enough, I get there and I read like 2 of them and I'm like, it ruins my day. The feedback's important, but the problem is that so much of the feedback you get online is just noise.
Right.
It's the Yelp review of somebody who's like, amazing bakery, but couldn't find parking, 1 star. If you see that as the business owner, that is going to upset you so much. But if you get somebody on your staff or an assistant or somebody and tell them like, look, once a month, comb through Yelp, find the 5 most useful pieces of feedback on Yelp, and then, write them out and send them to me in an email or something. That's super useful. And then you don't have to go take the emotional toll of like scrolling through all of these bullshit emails and reviews and things like that. And having to go through the emotional roller coaster of reading those things.
I've noticed too, I'm going through your book reviews right now on Amazon. The trolls for my businesses, they love to write the long reviews. Oh, the trolls do. Now, the happy guy usually will write a short kind of a to the point thing. So I'm seeing, love this book and the concept. Thank you. 5 stars. Oh, awesome. This is definitely one of my favorite self-help books. And it goes on 5 stars. Mark, you're killing it. But then the one guy who's upset, he's got a lot of time on his hands. He likes to write stuff. It's unbelievable. Now, for the business owners out there, to make this very actionable, one of the things we teach a lot in our business coaching program is the Purple Cow, the concept by the Thrive Time Show guest and best-selling author Seth Godin, where he talks about if you're remarkable, it's likely that some people won't like you. The part of the definition, that's part of the definition of being remarkable. Nobody gets unanimous praise ever. The best the timid can hope for is to be unnoticed. Criticism comes to those who stand out. I mean, you are standing out, but what advice would you have for the bakery owner out there or the business owner out there who is wanting to paint their sign neon green so that it stands out? They're wanting to paint their plumbing truck with a purple cow print to stand out. They are wanting to deliver that sermon that's going to outrage people but hold them accountable. They're wanting to, but then they don't want to offend anybody. What would you say?
It's impossible.
Okay.
And this ties back into that quote that you pulled up earlier, which is, think about these things in terms of who do you want to alienate? Because like if you're a business owner or if you're trying to do something in the world, like you said, you're going to have to alienate somebody. Right. So ask yourself, who do I want to alienate? That's Which customers do I not want coming into my bakery or into my doctor's office? And then position yourself accordingly.
That is good right there. Who do you want to alienate? We got to put that on a shirt. That is hot. That's hot. That's a book title for you, my friend, right there. That's book 4 or 5. That's hot. Who do you want to alienate? Shunda. That is good. I'm going to hit my bomb button here. Oh, that's a glory. That was a good one. Okay, I'll move on. That was good. Now, you have a book, again, you see it, you find it everywhere, and you've gone from the blog guy to the book guy, the self-published guy, to now the best-selling author guy. So I just want to know, I want the process. What was your process like for getting a book deal? I think a lot of people want to know what that looks like.
It was a little bit different for me because I had a big blog. But it's generally you always want to get an agent. And so what I notice when this question comes up, people tend to overestimate how important the book idea is. Book ideas are dime a dozen. Like it's like business ideas. Like we've all got business ideas, and none of it matters. And until you actually write the thing, none of it really matters. So people overestimate the book idea. They underestimate all of kind of the business stuff. So who's your target market? How do you plan on marketing it? Do you have an online platform? Do you have a blog or a podcast or a YouTube channel? Do you have connections to, journalists or other people that can promote it? Like that stuff is just as important, if not more important, than the actual book idea itself. If you're like, it's like if Kim Kardashian wants to write a book, like they don't even care what the book idea is. They're like, here's some money, go write it. It's if you have a platform and a marketing machine above a certain size, they'll figure out the book idea with you later. I think people need to worry more about the business side of things and a little bit less. The idea will figure itself out.
How did you determine what agency to go with or agent to go with? It's
actually a really funny story. So when I wrote that blog post around the time, the subtle art of not giving a about blog post, I happened to mention on the website around that time that I was working on a book, and I wasn't sure if I was going to self-publish it or publish it normally. And I got about 4 or 5 agents reaching out to me and setting up calls with me, and it was an interesting conversation because I was, by that time I was making good money through my site. I was making good money from my self-published book. I knew if I self-published another book, I'd probably make high 6 or low 7 figures from it. Yeah. And so I went into these calls with the agents of like, okay, convince me why I should do this. Convince me why I should sign with a publisher and give them, 70% of my royalties or whatever. And it was funny because all of the agents, they tried to be my buddy. They tried to be like, they kind of promised me the moon. Oh yeah. They said, no, it's going to be amazing. Like, just trust me. And they tried to sweet talk me and all this stuff. And then I got on the phone with this one woman, and she consistently interrupted me. I could never get a word in. And then when I asked her why I should go with a publisher instead of self-publish, her response was, I don't know, do whatever you want, but if you want a publisher, call me back. And then she hung up on me. And I was offended for about 5 seconds. And then I'm like, that's the person I want negotiating on my behalf to other people. And so I called her back the next day and I'm like, all right, you're on. And she's been my agent ever since. She's amazing.
This just in, tips for getting mega clients. Talk over them and just don't let Mark Manson talk, and then you too can become his agent.
Exactly.
That is awesome. Okay, so now your book is everywhere. It's in Target, it's in Barnes & Noble, it's in airports. I mean, literally everywhere I go, I see the orange cover. And I've actually bought many copies of the book for my employees and for myself and for people I care about. So you've probably made at least $200 from my staff here, because I think you get like $2 a book maybe, right? I mean, it's not that sweet. People think you get a lot more per book, but hopefully you've made a few $100s off my staff.
Yeah, $2 to $3 each, I'd say.
Okay, well, so I've probably paid you $600 so far. So I need this help. If you're out there listening today, buy a copy of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***. Let's get at least $1,000 in Mark Manson's pocket today. If you think about it, folks, all you got to do is go without a regrettable purchase from a convenience store. Don't get the regrettable burrito. Don't supersize a meal this week. Maybe fast for one day. Don't go to Starbucks for one day. Buy a copy of the book. And you could have been done, but you decided to go ahead and work on another book. And your next book is called Everything is a book about hope. What? What is this book about? What inspired you to write
it? Two things, really. I mean, the first was I'll say there's kind of a social component and then a personal component. The social component is kind of what we were talking about earlier, is that I think by pretty much every material metric, being alive today is the best it's ever been in the history of humankind.
Truth.
It's just the world is amazing. If you take the time and just think about, if you think about what's happening right now, I'm walking around in sweatpants in LA with a headset on that isn't even there's not even a cord, and I'm talking to you, God knows where you are, and it's being recorded and it's being blasted out to, hundreds of thousands or billions of people or whatever. It's absolutely stunning.
Awesome.
What we experience on a day-to-day basis. And yet, when you look at mental health measurements and kind of the more psychological metrics, people are more anxious, depressed, and miserable, and upset, and angry than any other time in modern history. And so I wanted to look at, basically, to me, that says that there's something about modern life and all this technology and everything that is causing us to feel as though things are getting worse, even though they're actually getting better. And so I wanted to write a book that looked at that and took a real critical analysis of what it is about the world that is causing that.
We had a guy by the name of Daniel Goleman, the clinical psychologist, on the show, and he was talking about in this world of digital devices, we have to create boundaries that didn't exist before. He says, he talks about how you lived in this world back in the day, in the 1980s, or when I first started my first company, DJ Connection. Even though, Mark, it became the largest wedding entertainment company in the country, do you know how many times I got a text message from an angry customer? Never. You know how many times I got a bad review? Never. Why? Because you couldn't do it. If you were pissed, what would you do? You call, you leave a voicemail, we call you on Monday. Right? Now, everybody's all hooked up to the devices, and Daniel Goleman writes, we need to recreate boundaries. When you carry a digital gadget, that creates a virtual link to your office. You need to create a digital boundary, a virtual boundary that didn't exist before. What advice would you have for the listeners out there who own companies where they have literally thousands of people at any given time who could be happy or pissed? I mean, I see so many business owners that struggle. It's like the bigger their company gets, the more depressed they get because they're always hooked up to the digital universe. What advice would you have for them to maybe create a little more happiness in their craniums?
I think that's a great piece of advice, the digital boundaries. For me, I've just learned throughout my career, especially as I become more popular and recognized and all these things, like drawing that line between the professional and personal and then sticking to that line, like not breaking it, is just so important for my mental health and sanity.
Yes.
And it's also better for my professional health and sanity. It's like if I'm taking messages from my team during dinner with my wife and I'm stressing out about stuff like this or that, it not only is it removing me from my personal relationships in that moment, but it's stressing me out, it's burning me out, and I'm going to be less available the next morning when I need to get up and be ready for work. So it's I just try to, if things come in when I'm done for the day, I'm done for the day. When I'm on the clock, I'm on the clock. When I'm off, like it's just no emails, no texts. And if something comes through for whatever reason, I say like, cool, I'll look at it tomorrow.
That is powerful. Now, in your book out there, there's somebody out there who's thinking about, they're going, I'm thinking about buying the book. Everything is, but at the end of the day, I might not. I got to click the button. I have carpal tunnel. I might have to go to Amazon and click a button, and I have carpal tunnel. My hand is very tired right now, but yet I'm very motivated to buy the book. It's hard. So
it's hard.
I'm gonna just kind of open the book and just kind of peer into it a little bit. Chapter 1 of Everything is book about hope is titled "The Uncomfortable Truth." What is the uncomfortable truth?
I feel like you should read, because I'm not going to do it justice if I don't read it, because it's the if you go to the second section, so there's a joke on there about like if I worked at a Starbucks, what I would write instead of writing people's names on the cup, like what I'd write instead is basically it's something akin to like you and everyone you know are going to die, and pretty much everything you do in your life is going to have absolutely no significance on the grandest scale of things. And it just goes on and on and on. It's like we're just a bunch of monkeys on a piece of dirt, like, enjoy your coffee. And and it's called The Uncomfortable Truth because on the one hand, it is true. We are so tiny and insignificant, and things are so fleeting, and seem so minuscule in the grand scheme of things. But it's a fact that we all have to negotiate and kind of figure out for ourselves. We all are confronted with that truth at some point in our lives, and we all have to develop some sense of meaning and purpose for ourselves in spite of it. And that's kind of what the book is about.
This thing is this idea we've had a lot of emails recently from listeners about this, but when I built DJConnection.com, I sold it when I was 27. So since the age of 27, I haven't really had to work in the way that other people have had to work, and so I have this little boutique, we'll call it, Mark, consulting company, and I never take on more than 160 clients because I just don't want to. It's like I got to 160 and I was like, that's good. It bothers people though when you're satisfied and or comfortable with where you're at. They almost feel like it's depressing when you don't have any huge goals to eat the earth. I just want to tap into your brain and your goals here. What are your goals? Do you want to put out 10 books before the age of X, Do you want to you just want to make your next book the best book? How do you define success? Because I think it's very interesting when we interview super successful people to find out how you define success.
Well, it's interesting you asked that, because after Subtle Art came out, I really struggled with that, because I'd say previous to Subtle Art, I had a lot of those conventional metrics of success.
Yeah.
I want to be a New York Times bestselling author. I want to sell 1 million books. I want to, do speaking engagements in foreign countries and all this stuff. And all of that happened in like a year.
Yep.
and so I suddenly was sitting around with a lot of time on my hands and a lot of money coming into my bank account, and like having no idea what to do with myself anymore. And so I've actually spent a lot of time the past few years thinking about that. And, for me right now, I kind of think of it as I have a few missions in life. And one of them is I feel like the self-help genre or the self-help industry has a lot of toxic and kind of cancerous aspects to it. And so I want to disrupt that industry. And
yes, and yes. I could not agree more. This is great. Continue. I love this. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. And it's, that's beautiful, because that's a long-term, slow-moving thing. I think the one thing I discovered the hard way is that having those very like numerical external metrics of like, okay, I want to do like $1 million in revenue or something, it's like that's nice. Like it's nice to have those, and it's nice to get those. But they're not sufficient. Like you need some broader, and I think of it as like a mission in life. And so disrupting the self-help industry is one of them. Another one is the same one I mentioned earlier, which is simply like making these ideas about like understanding how our emotions drive our sense of what we find important, and how like, a green Lamborghini feels important, but it's not, or a few hundred people in China dying feels important, but it's not. It's just scary, and those aren't the same things.
Yeah.
I want to raise the consciousness in the culture and have all these kind of psychological concepts. And psychologists have known this stuff for decades, but it hasn't seeped its way in. Like people haven't processed it yet. And I feel like we need to process, if we're going to survive the social media age, we have to process these things, or else we're just going to get, thrown into a hurricane.
Mark, we have 4 minutes and 4 rapid-fire questions, so here we go. What is the Disappointment Panda?
Disappointment Panda is a superhero I created in Subtle Art, and his superpower is to tell people truths that they don't want to hear.
Awesome. Such as, maybe give you just one example.
So in the book, he walks door to door like a Bible salesman and knocks on the door, and somebody will come and say, I think you think that making more money will make your kids appreciate you, but it won't. And then he tells them to have a nice day and goes down to the next house.
Oh, Disappointment Panda. Okay, so Brett Denton, one of our thrivers out there, he's a very successful business owner, listener, client of mine. He built a gym called Cavell Fit. It's like a big group classes, a fitness training center in Boise, Idaho. And he writes a question for you. He says, "It seems you have a knack, Mark, for writing and researching in a way that is new and fresh. How do you determine the content for writing and how to spin it in a way that is new and interesting?"
Generally, I use myself as a barometer. I kind of trust that if I find it interesting and like if I tell my friends about it and they seem to find it interesting, that it's probably something that a lot of people are experiencing or thinking about.
Yep.
And then from there, it's in terms of writing it in a fun or clever way, I get bored easily, and so my bar is like I need to write something that I wouldn't be bored reading.
There you go.
And that's it.
Okay, final 2 questions for you. Thrive Time guest Nir Eyal, the author of Hooked and now Indistractable, apparently is your writing accountability partner. Could you explain about your relationship with Nir as it relates to being your writing accountability partner?
Nir's great. We wrote our books together. so being a writer is hard because it's very isolating, and it's really hard to keep yourself on task when you're just sitting in a room by yourself for 6, 8, 10 hours at a time. And so I met Nir a few years ago. We had both just started our last books, and we were both struggling to make much progress on them. And we discovered that we only lived like maybe half a mile away from each other. Wow. And so we started meeting up a couple mornings each week and banging it out, and we've been friends ever since.
Final question. You've got the mic, and before we drop the mic, you can say anything you want to our 500,000 listeners. Any word, message, book they should buy, action step you want them to take, disappointment panda quote, anything you want to say.
Well, I'm not promoting anything at the moment.
Sure.
So, just check out the books when next time you're in the airport. But yeah, I would say improving your life is about improving your problems, not necessarily improving your successes. So focus on choosing good problems, and all the good stuff will happen as a byproduct.
Can you dig it?
And I'm going to say this to the listeners. I don't want any of the listeners to feel bad if they don't buy a copy of Everything is the Book About Hope. I don't want them to feel bad. But I can say for as little as maybe $20 a week, you too could support a very successful author by buying a copy every week. So just keep buying that. Put that on auto ship. Get that stuff. Get that on Amazon. Mark Manson, thank you so much, man, for being on the Thrive Time Show.
Thanks, man. It was a blast.
Oh, Thrive Nation, that was an incredible show right there. Mark Manson, great author, great guest. If you learned something today, share that with somebody you know. Just share the podcast with somebody you know. Send them a text, send them an email, tweet it to them, send it to them on Facebook, maybe fax them an MP3 if that is in fact possible. But now without any further ado, we like to end each and every show with a boom, so here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom! 1980 was the year of my conception. From the dorm room founded DJ Connection. Entrepreneur of the year in 07. On my path to the top, I learned a lot of lessons. Kicked out of college writing a parody rap. Dissed ORU like a trumpet rosy recap. I've been known for getting stuff done, like giving a crap. And for jocking up wins while my competition naps. Now it is the Thrive Time Show on your radio. Catch the broadcast on the podcast download. If you got a business, we'll help it grow. God's got a plan you just didn't yet know about. Workflows, systems, scripts, and hiring. Motivating yourself when you need inspiring. These faces made for radio and not TV. Talking everything from Clay to Z. Auto auctions, banks, haircuts, and glasses. You want to sell it, we've already sold it to the masses. No classes or prerequisites. Just business school as raw as it gets.
It's a Thrive Time Show on the radio. Yes, it is. Oh, yeah. It's all about you. 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 Yeah. So we bring the boom.
Yes, sir. It's Z and Clay, broadcasting from the box in the 918. Business school in the topic today. Check the syllabus, it's getting you paid. I'm making the business boom, it's what we do. You can do it, let us show you. I'm a father of 5 with maniacal focus to teach the proven moves, no hocus pocus. Cause get rich quick is not a move, but the proven system will make your life improve. See, I'm more than just a rhymer, like a horse with blinders. Focused on the Thrive Time Show is where you find us. He be the Z and I be the C. Teaching business skills from Clay to Z. We both grew up poor, but we're poor no more. The goal of this show is to help you score. I couldn't see the light until my son could see, but I learned to rock the mic in the high school scene. A young DJ with a $1 billion dream, numb to the pain that rejection brings. So I, like a sod bomber, sweated for that green. Now I'm on your radio with a thank you and please. Share this podcast with a friend and enemy. Now it's talks of business from Clay to Z.
It's a Thrive Time Show on the radio. Yes, it is. Oh, yeah. It's all about you. 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 Yeah. So we bring the boom.
4,000% from February to February. Now I can better that. Okay, Clay, I don't think you know this. I don't think you know this. I'm pinching myself, and if I cry, forgive me. In the last 2.5 days, we have bettered our entire month of February in the last 2.5 days. So, and the phone's blowing up. Everything's just blowing up. You're right. It is like a rocket ship. So we're pinching ourselves, actually.
I learned at the academy, Kings Point in New York, acta non verba. Watch what a person does, not what they say.
Devin, we oftentimes at thrivetimeshow.com, we interact with some really great people. In fact, if anybody goes to thrivetimeshow.com and they schedule that first free 13-point assessment with me, you're sort of like the filter. I mean, you talk to, people every day.
Yep.
And certain people are not a good fit. We call these people happy hopers. And certain people are a good fit. We call these people diligent doers. What's the difference? A diligent doer has an actual product or service that makes sense. They have a prototype or an actual product or service. They have an actual viable plan where they can sell a real product or service to real people. And a happy hoper is somebody that doesn't have a real product or service. And a while back, these wonderful people, they reached out to us and we scheduled a 13-point assessment. And I knew that they would be successful for two reasons. One, they are diligent doers. And the second is they had an actual product that they could sell to real people on the real planet Earth. And they gave a sample to my wife. They gave a sample of their product to my wife. And my wife, Devin, who doesn't coach clients, doesn't mentor clients, she stays out of that. She works on the accounting side. She tells me this stuff is incredible. This is incredible stuff. And so at that point, I recognized, we're going to have a business that's going to blow up. And so I wanted to get them on the show while the business is actually taking off. Like they're actually currently joining us from a figurative rocket ship. Their business is taking off next level. I'm excited to have them on. This is the founders of Givaderm. Ladies, welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you?
It's such an honor. Thank you so much for having us on. We're having so much fun right now. It's unbelievable.
We are pinching ourselves.
So first off, for people out there that don't know who you two are, I'm going to let you two introduce yourselves and introduce your product so people can Google you and verify you're not a hologram.
Absolutely. So we are a toxin-free skincare company, and we're really trying to bring the words luxury and zero toxicity together. And it's just been a wild ride. Honestly, my mom had a crazy health scare.
Hi, I'm Deborah.
And sorry, I'm Julianne. I'm the co-founder. And I'm her daughter. And so it's just, it's just been a wild ride. And honestly, we were pretty, we knew we had something. We knew we had something that was incredible. But then honestly, we were pretty stagnant. We didn't really know what direction to go. And then all of a sudden, on one of our super late nights, my mom looked at me and she goes, we've heard a lot about clay, and I think we're supposed to call, maybe get that assessment. And I was like, within 5 seconds, I launched that form over to you guys.
It's a holy moment, actually, because I'm a major introvert. And she's like, I never thought for a minute you'd do that. But I honestly felt like the Lord said, do this. So we did. And I think we shared not yesterday, at the conference last weekend, that this February, from last February, we were up 4,000% in our business.
Can you repeat that? How much have you grown as a person?
4,000% from February to February. Now I can better that. Okay, Clay, I don't think you know this. I'm pinching myself, and if I cry, forgive me. In the last 2.5 days, we have bettered our entire month of February in the last 2.5 days. So, and the phone's blowing up. Everything's just blowing up. You're right. It is like a rocket ship. So we're pinching ourselves, actually.
I mean this sincerely, and I wanted to get Devin on the show because she talks to so many wonderful people that go to thrivetimeshow.com. And the challenge we have is that we're sort of like an incubator, and I can only work with 160 clients, so it's like a football team and you only have 52 roster spots. We only have 160. And the reason why is, Devin, with your clients, you meet with your clients once a week.
Yep.
But a client, you might talk to them 3 times during the week.
Right.
Because we're doing the photography, the videography, the web, the search engine, coaching them, guiding them, mentoring them. And I really wanted to drill down into the successes that your business has experienced as a result of you two diligent doers putting in the work there. So first is you guys are doing the Dream 100. Now, the Dream 100 is a system that I don't know why. And Deborah, I'm going to ask you the question. So I don't know why, and I'm not attacking you. This is not a passive aggressive attack. I don't know why people are reluctant to do it. I don't know. So, in my life, anytime I want to get, for example, Tim Tebow to speak at our upcoming business conference, I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call. And then if I get rejected, which I often do, I will then email. And if I get rejected via email, I will then text. And if I get rejected, and Devin, you have worked here for about a year-ish.
Almost 2
years. And on the agenda, did I not put on the agenda, book Tim Tebow for June conference? Did I not put it on there for it seemed like maybe 6 consecutive months?
Yes, you did have it on there.
And I've been chasing that reality, turning that into to have Tim Tebow speak at our events for 10 consecutive years. So from the age of 33 to the age of 43, I've had the same action item on my to-do list. And the reason why is because my literary agent, Esther Federkevich, she represents Tim Tebow and myself. And a lot of people in our orbits kept saying, Tim should speak at your conferences. And so, you have to reach out to people you don't know, because this just in, people don't wake up with a burning desire to pay you. And the product, as good as it is, it's not going to sell itself. So even though my wife is saying, Givaderm is hot sauce, it is the best skincare product I've ever seen, everybody should buy this. That doesn't mean people are going to buy it unless they know about you. So I want to ask you that specifically, Deborah, the Dream 100, making a list of 100 people that you do not know and reaching out to them to offer them free samples. What was the challenging part about doing that?
We had to identify our audience first, because your Dream 100 can go everywhere, but you have to specifically identify your audience. And then it is work, because you're kind of intimidated and you're like, is this real? Is this really going to work? And so you just have to press into that and keep pressing into that. And you just do what you're told to do. I know that sounds basic, but that's why we have hired you to tell us what to do. And so we just had to keep at it.
Now, Devin, you work with very reasonable clients. None of our clients are unreasonable. Of course not. What is the hard part that people have when you tell them to do the Dream 100? Because these two are doing it. This is something that Juliana and Deborah, they're doing it. What is the issue? As I'm trying to help somebody out there that's stuck.
Dealing with rejection.
There it is. Now,
100%.
I used to stutter as a kid. So let me just walk you through how that works. If you can't speak well and you get mocked at a young age, at a certain point, you just quit caring what people think. So, that's at a certain point, you just quit caring what people think. So, do you see this, Devin, in our office? We have a lot of employees. Mm-hmm. There's gossip, there's rumors, there's jackassery, whatever. Yesterday I was dealing with a situation, so I just call the person involved, ask them directly, call both people, wrap it up. I don't know if that upsets people. I don't know, but I don't think about it. I just want to solve the problem, and I think we've solved the problem. It could be you, but if you're avoiding conflict or rejection, you're just not going to have success. So pro tip number 1 is you could stutter a lot and then get to a point where you no longer care. That's option number 1. Option number 2 is you just become numb. You just get to a point where you say Matthew 5:10 through 11, blessed are ye who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for ye shall inherit the kingdom of heaven. So you just say, I don't worry about what people think. Or you just run around like you're dumb. I don't know if you go dumb or numb. Juliana, I want to ask you, what's your approach? Do you try to go dumb? Do you try to go numb? Do you try to pray your way through it? How do you push?
All of the above.
All of it.
And I say all of the above. It just depends upon how it hits me. Dumb, numb, and pray through it. It all of those are true. Absolutely.
Now, just so we're clear about what I mean by this is some strategic stuff here. Being dumb, it is a move that I use often. So, 100%. Yesterday I was, and I'll be very vague. Yesterday I was looking at buying a potential property for a thing I'm working on. And, I just began breaking all the boundaries. I don't mind knocking on a door and talking to somebody. I don't mind calling a property that's not for sale and asking, will you sell it? I don't mind talking to the neighbor and saying, what do you know about this property? I don't mind. And I just sort of go in like I'm dumb, like, hey, everybody, is this property for sale? I mean, that's just sort of the mindset. And certain people go, I can't believe you just did that, but okay, that works. or you can get none, but you got to do it. Okay, so you made the Dream 100 of these influencers, people that have access to the your ideal and likely buyers. You've given them samples. That's working. Second is you have to optimize the pricing. Now, the pricing is a thing, Devin, and I'm sure you've never dealt with this. Your clients haven't either. I'm sure the Give It Nerve folks haven't either. But I find a lot of people are afraid to charge what something's worth.
Yeah.
So let me start with an example of that doesn't relate to anybody I've ever met before. And this would be the entrepreneur that has a great product, but is afraid to charge what they should charge because they don't want to offend, they don't want to overcharge, they don't want to take advantage of. And so they actually create an unprofitable business. So the more they sell, the more they create a daily hell. What am I saying? The more they sell, the more they create this perpetual hell because they actually are selling something at a loss or they're barely breaking even. I talked to just the other day, I was talking to a home remodeler who was telling me that the busier he gets, the more money he loses. He was at our conference. And I go, how does that work? And he's like, well, I don't want to gouge people. And I said, so what? And so this guy, he's not a client, but he came to our conference and he was telling me that his business, he listens to our show and he's been implementing the things he can without being a client. And he said, but the problem is the more business I get, the more I lose money. And I go, how is that possible? And he's actually charging people what it costs him to provide the service, or he's doing it at a loss. And I couldn't understand it. I want to ask you two now, going back to Deborah here on the pricing thing. Has that been something that we've worked through together, or maybe what's your, how have we kind of coached you or worked with you on the pricing?
Yeah, well, Andrew, our coach, has worked with us because I am one of those people that as a consumer, I watch the budget. And so at the same time, our products have incredible ingredients and they are all natural. So we have to cover our expenses. And so you guys have worked with us to watch our margins, to be able to know what our margins are and know what we have to price, or we're not going to be able to make this company available. We won't make it. And so you guys have been incredible, an incredible asset helping us do that.
I want to ask your thoughts here, Juliana. Talk to me about that, the pricing thing. What have we helped you through the pricing, or what would be your comments on that?
100%. Actually, it is interesting because when you set your prices where they need to be, that it actually attracts the customers that you want. And although it's been hard to consider pricing and hard to consider what we need to make, what, like, as far as just covering the costs, and then what we need to make on top of that to just continue to be sustainable, it is incredible because it's been I feel like I said, it's attracting your ideal and likely buyer. So it's beautiful.
How has coaching, we'll get into more details, but how has coaching, Juliana, how has that impacted your business? If you had to describe it to somebody, you're sitting next to someone at a conference and they're like, okay, so you've worked with, Clay Clark's coaching system, or with, you've worked with Devin, or you've worked with Andrew, because you've probably interacted with our whole team at this point. I mean, you've probably talked to Devin on the phone. You've probably been to a conference. You've probably interacted with Andrew every week on the phone. You've probably interacted with our whole team at this point. And someone says to you, how has it impacted your life? What would you say?
I would say it's the equivalent. I've never seen the show, but I've heard of the show Naked and Afraid, where you're dumped in the middle of God only knows where. And it's like, you know what? I have this great idea. I want to be dumped in the middle of God only knows where, and I have a product that will help people, but I don't know how to actually make a way. And it's literally like hiring a guide that is experienced, that knows what they're doing, and that can really just absolutely, even when there have been times that I'm like, I don't even know where we are. I feel like I'm totally blind, even in the initial coaching process. And it was like, okay, but great news. We've got our coach call tomorrow. It's going to be great. And so it's just this incredible feeling of knowing that somebody has our back, and knowing that they know what to do. And then also knowing that, and honestly, I would be a little bit disappointed if I hired a business coach that wasn't a multimillionaire. And so, I'm just super grateful that you're successful. And so we wanted to go, what, he must know if he must know a few things, or a few things or two. So,
right. Yeah.
That's
so,
right.
yeah.
What's interesting about what we do is, last night, I'll be very vague because I don't know when the show's coming out. I don't want to date the show that way. But, last night, my wife and I were talking about some things. And she said to me, she goes, I'm so glad that I'm aware of how to achieve success, because when our daughter asks, it's great to be able to tell her the answers. You know, she was just she was kind of reflecting, because our daughter's 20 years old, and she's asking questions about buying her first property, and my wife is like, well, you want to buy low, obviously. Yeah, buy low, but you want to think about that. And my wife started talking to her about generating revenue streams. Like, you want to have a property where you could maybe rent out an extra room to someone you can trust, or maybe you could rent it out in the future, or maybe you buy it low, you add value to it. And my wife was really getting into like a home flipping seminar.
Wow.
But it was a thing where we've just done it so much that we forgot that is a question that a 19-year-old has, or a 20-year-old has. That people have never bought a house before. And my wife was putting on this like home flipping seminar of what makes a home more valuable, the moves you can do that are inexpensive but add a lot of life to the property. And again, if you've never flipped a house before, it can be overwhelming. But in our case, we've done it so much. The other day, someone was asking us, I think my wife and I have lived in 15 separate houses. It could be 16, because we just we're buying, renovating, moving, and we just doing it. And so it's kind of become normal. Growing a business is kind of normal. So if you're out there watching today and you feel overwhelmed, you feel stuck, these are two great examples of people that are real people we've actually worked with. We are working with. They are currently in the figurative rocket ship. The figurative rocket ship. They're blasting off. Sales are happening nonstop. I appreciate them taking some time to talk to us about this. The next is we got to track. We have to track. And people always tell me, I'm so busy, I don't have time to track. Now, Devin, your clients have never told you that.
No.
But can you walk me through why other people who don't listen to our show and are not your clients, why people might not track?
They're scared to look at the numbers.
There's a thing there. The other thing I would say is people like to always delegate to their spouse, to their partner. So the alpha, if it's a female-owned business and the woman is the founder, she will usually delegate the finances to the person that joined. Like, so the founder usually likes to delegate the finances to somebody else. That's usually what happens. Or if it's a male, he'll delegate it to, his wife. Or if it's the wife who started it, she'll delegate it to her husband. Or if it's a sister, she'll delegate it to her brother. It seems like in the family-owned business, the founder always delegates the tracking to somebody else. I just see that as a pattern. And it seems like if they're not related, it just seems like they'll delegate it to whoever they just hired. So imagine you go to work for someone, you're 25 years old, you just got hired by a 40-year-old, and they go, hey, by the way, you're in charge of tracking. And I see that. And then the person who's in charge of tracking, they might not be diligent. They might be disorganized. They might be organized. I don't know. But what happens is then they sort of now have removed themselves from direct responsibility. I wanted to ask you, Deborah, on the tracking, how do you two track? Because it is really depressing when you're tracking 100% of zero sales this week. I mean, that can be depressing. And it could seem like a waste of time, but now as you're actually selling, it becomes increasingly important. So start with you there, Deborah. The tracking thing, how do you guys handle that?
Well, we have our tracking sheet that Andrew helped us put together. And you're right, it's absolutely mandatory. And because we have a product that has to be manufactured, you have to know how much every item costs, down to the packing tape, the fragile stickers, and all this kind of stuff. So it's imperative that you know what's happening. And that's what, and like I said, Andrew's helped. We do that together. We kind of stay in it. I tend to lean into the manufacturing part of it, where I needed to know exactly how much that shipper cost, exactly how much, that void fill cost, exactly how much the decoration on our bottles, all that you have to know it. Otherwise you'll wake up one day and you're consumed, you're done. So
Juliana,
you just have to know it.
You have any thoughts on that? Because again, you two are working as a business owner. You're doing the marketing, the sales, the hiring, the firing. They're shipping things. How would you describe your tracking process?
You know what, we had an approximate idea before we started working with you, but then getting the specifics has been incredible. And it's not hard. It's just anything that goes out, you track, and then anything that comes in, you track. But it does take effort. You have to put a little bit of effort into it. And so I would just say it's invaluable. It's one of those things that if you don't understand potentially where there's a leak in the boat, then you just have to, because you have to do these. It's basically constant
to-dos as well.
Yeah, constant weekly inspections of the boat, if you will. And so it's really good.
It is. And again, this is so big. Constant inspections. I think that a lot of people struggle with boredom. But the great clients I've had, they bore down. So you have to do the same thing every day. Devin, have you ever worked at a restaurant?
I haven't.
You haven't?
No.
Oh man. You probably never will then. But have you two ever worked at a restaurant? Julianne, have you ever worked at a restaurant?
No.
Ever
I
have
haven't.
you? Well, let me walk you through. Let me just walk you through my experience at
No.
Applebee's. I'll walk you through Applebee's. I worked at Applebee's, and our job is every single day. You had when I worked there, 20-something years ago. You have to have out the fresh salad. So you open up that walk-in freezer, and a guy from Cisco or whoever delivers the salad, he's going to deliver the fresh salad. And you have to throw away the bad salad every single day. You bring in the fresh meat, you throw out the bad meat every single day. Then you prepare your they call it the house salad prep. So you basically make the house salads and you put them in this room. And so when somebody orders it, they're ready to go. And you have to. There's like a process. Every day you clean the bathrooms. Every single day you wipe off all the tables. Every single day you dust every single window. Every single day you wipe off the glass. And it's a checklist every day. And I found that the top waiters, of which I was not one, I had a good attitude, but I wasn't nearly as skilled as other people who had been doing it a long time. They would come in to work right away and they would wipe down the windows, mop the floor, get everything ready to go. And they were ready to go before the first customer walked in. But I found that the bad ones would always say things like, all we ever do is do the same thing every day. And then my boss, Ian, would go, yeah, because it's a restaurant. And all we ever do is serve food to great people. That's what we do. So, but I think certain people get bored with that monotonous stuff, and you guys do a really good job of nailing that. The next is the website creation. And the website, it's not a one and done. It is a process of continual improvement. There's endless iterations. We're always updating. I'm never happy with the website. I'm happy today. But if I look at it too long, I go, I kind of want to tweak that. We always want to make a small little enhancement. We always want to add a new testimonial. We always want to add a new endorsement. As I look at it right now, just my pro tip, and I'll tell Andrew, but maybe you can tell him that I told you this before you talked to Andrew. Any of the bigger names that are starting to endorse you, we get the as seen on, like endorsed by. So when you click on testimonials, it's like endorsed by, and you start to get more and more big names. So I look at one of my clients called Moms on a Mission. What a great job she does. And as she's booking bigger and bigger guests, we keep adding the as seen on. Now, you don't want it to get in the way of the product, but you got to make sure we get, because you're starting to have some big time names that endorse your product. Could you share with the listeners, what's it been like having a consultant that also does the web development? Because we do the photography, the video, the web, the search engine, all of that is all one-stop shop. What's that been like there, Deborah, having just a one-stop shop for everything?
There are really no words, because whenever you're trying to start a business, you're so overwhelmed. You're watching everything. This is new territory for you, so you're having to learn everything the best you can. So to have someone come in that is an expert in this field and can say, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do, and this is what you need to do. It's like done. I mean, also the pricing, as I've heard, but thank God we didn't go there, but to have someone develop your website is astoundingly outrageous. So to be able to have that incorporated in the coaching has been such a blessing. It's just there are really few words. Without a website, we're sunk. So.
Devin, I want to tell you a story that's going to depress you, okay?
Okay.
How old are you right now? How old are you?
23.
Okay, so when you were not born yet, you're not yet born. Seriously, when you were not born yet, I started this. Your mom and dad are probably on a date. I started this company called DJ Connection, right? And I thought, well, I'm going to do is I'm going to work at Applebee's, Target, and DirecTV. That's a true story. So 1998, 1997, I'm growing this business. 1999, I'm growing it. And I got this website. I needed a website, needed to have a website. So I went to a web guy. I won't mention the guy's name, although I want to. Well, I know I will mention it. I will mention the website because it's not a bad thing. It's just a fact. So I hired a company called Creative State to build my website for me. It's called Creative State. And Brent Lawless was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. This is his company, Creative State Web Development. There it is. Boom. And I paid him to build my website for me. And, it was at that time, I look back at it and I go, wow. But we're talking about thousands of dollars was spent to build said website, and thousands and thousands. And so I was paying unbelievable amounts of money. We're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to build the website. And then every time I wanted to make a change, there were certain costs to it. Now, he's gone on to build, website products and promotion for Taylor Swift. He's done stuff for Garth Brooks, and he's really a kind of a household name boutique in the web space. He's done a great job. But my thought was, if I'm going to build a website, I want to have the guy who built Garth Brooks's website. Because at that time, Garth Brooks was like the #1 music star in the world. I'm going to hire that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad I did. But if I were to tell you that it was $1,700 a month, because we charge our clients $1,700 a month, it's a flat rate, $1,700 per month. And that includes the coaching, the mentorship, the conferences, everything, all the introductions, all the PR, all the marketing, the video, the photography, the web, the accounting. But this guy, he didn't apologize for the price. You can imagine, because the guy's built the website for Taylor Swift and Garth Brooks. You can imagine. So it's more like, well, $15,000, we'll get a conversation started. And I'm going, and I just remember him saying to me, I remember people telling me, well, you need to get a video on your website. I thought, I do need to get a video on my website. So all I'll do is I'll get a video on my website. And I go, so do you guys do the video? He goes, no, we don't do video. But I have a guy I recommend. And the video guy says, true story, for $8,000, I could make you the promotional video. $8,000. I'm going, $8,000. Okay, and then the website's 15. I'm up to 23. I work at Applebee's, Target, and DirecTV. I'm making like $8.25 an hour plus tips sometimes at Applebee's. You don't get tips at Target. So I'm working, and then I go, okay, and then I need to hire a PR person to help me do my PR, to get in front of the media, to get, and the PR people are like, well, it's a retainer, and it'll be, $5,000 a month for 1 year. So I'm out $60,000 for that. I got the website. So then I start thinking, I need to sell something. Because I'm going to need to sell something soon. So my Yellow Page ad was $2,500 a month for my Yellow Page ad on top of the other things. So I remember it was the craziest thing ever, because I'm working at Applebee's. Could you imagine, Devin, right now at your age, could you imagine you talk to your mom and dad, and your mom and dad says, how are you? And you say, I'm doing great. They say, what have you been up to? You said, I agreed to pay $2,500 a month for the next year on an ad that hasn't been proven to work. And by the way, I'm paying a PR company $4,000 a month. And by the way, bruceclay.com, that's the search engine company that is probably the highest rated, he writes the Search Engine for Dummies book. And you're going to pay about $8,000 a month for a 12-month contract. So you're, $96,000 to teach to have him. Could you imagine explaining that to your mom or your dad? How would that go over?
They'd think I'm stupid or something.
If you guys were building Give a Durham today, and imagine you hopped on your coaching call with Andrew, and Andrew says, what you need to do is you need to go out there and pay $2,500 a month for your advertising, pay $4,000 a month for PR, extra 15,000 for the website. But every time you make a change, it's like $1,000. And then you also, what would happen there, Juliana, if that was the recommendations he was going to give you?
Fight or freeze or whatever. I don't know. Like I think I would just be like, bye. Like, good luck with everything. I can't do it. Like, it's just not sustainable.
This is what I did. I took a photo with the Yellow Page guy. I said, if I'm going to pay you $2,500 a month, I need a photo. So there he is, Jeremy McCaskey. Awesome. Did a photo with my Yellow Page guy. And that's the kind of stuff I would do just to kind of capture it. But I always thought to myself, at some point, I'm going to build when people started asking me to help them grow their company, I thought, you know what, I'm going to make it, I'm going to provide the entire coaching system for less money than it would cost to hire an hourly employee. And so now, final thing I want to ask you guys is we help you with the systems, creating the systems, the optimization, turnkey, the entire workflow, marketing, sales, branding, PR, accounting, all of it coming together as one unified song, all the different instruments put together. They make a beautiful orchestra. It all comes together. I want to ask you this, Deborah, what's that worth to you? I know you pay $1,700 a month. I know that I make a 20% profit on every client. So we make, just to be very clear, $340 a month per client. What's that been worth to you?
Wait, sincerely, everything. I don't want to use cliche words, but I can't find words that could adequately describe how you have literally changed our lives. It made it affordable. It made it affordable. Yes, 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 yes. I'm not saying that, I was $1,700 a month. But then when you saw everything that is included, it's like, oh my gosh, it's only $1,700 a month. But it has changed our life. Our company, I can say hand on heart, our company would not be where it is without you guys. Hand on heart. There's absolutely no way. You've brought us the experience, the connections, the consistency, the kick in the pants when we needed it. Oh, we didn't need it hardly at all, Andrew. And so we're just there's sincerely, it's very hard to express how amazed we are. And we do feel like God was on this from the beginning. And we thank him for introducing us to you guys. And then you guys have just, we've literally hitched our wagon to your horses. And that's
True.
what it's been like. That's what
It's
we
true.
talk about that a lot. And we're pinching ourselves. I mean, how often can someone say in 2.5 days, we bettered a month's worth of sales, which was 4,000% higher than the year before. I mean, and the phone's blowing up. I mean, it's
Now, obviously, Deborah is paying us, Devin, to say that. So we'll go to a more reasonable person. Juliana, how would you describe it? Because there's somebody out there right now who believes that they don't qualify for success. That's what I hear all the time. And I grew up poor, and I'll never forget what it was like to be poor. And so I never want anybody to think they don't qualify. We have scholarship options to make it work for people. But what would you say to somebody who's on the outside of the website right now, listening to this show, and they're like, I don't know if it'll work for me? What would you say?
Don't be afraid, and don't be afraid to admit where you are now. Because honestly, it was really, when we did our assessment with you, Clay, we were like, well, we're doing this much a month, and that's embarrassing, and we're doing this one, and
we didn't think we would qualify. I mean, we did it.
And I think to really understand your heart for people and your heart for excellence for people. And like Mom said, I think I've told you this before, but it was absolutely uncanny to the point that at one point we had just like a connection, an additional connection with you. And that morning, and then that afternoon, one of our biggest influencers mentioned us in her broadcast.
Yeah.
And so literally you carry so much momentum. So I would say to anybody out there that's considering doing this, to give it a shot, to just
Please
go
don't
for it.
hesitate.
And honestly, just look at your budget and take out the things that are unnecessary so that you can afford to do this business coaching, because what you're getting is absolutely outrageous. And for whatever it's worth, I was even able to text Andrew multiple times. We're like panicked going, the website's down, or the website's blah, blah, blah. And he's like, we're on it. We're good. We got it done, handled it. And it was just like, oh my gosh, just to feel like we could trust fall with you guys when it is not none of this is my skill set. None of it. It's all uncomfortable. And to know that you have a well-oiled machine that we can go, oh, can we just come into that and just go, yes, I'll take your systems. It's incredible. It's been absolutely outrageous. And we look back and we laugh, but right now we are in a rocket ship.
Yeah.
And we're just going, oh gosh, we're going to have to, it is such a beautiful way. It's like, I think we're going to have to hire more people. And I think we're going to actually have to work, like literally have crews work around the clock for fulfillment. And, then we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And then we may have to go there. We may have to get more, more storage units. We may have to do whatever. And it's just, we're to that fun part, but it's also managing growth.
Well,
but what I love is that we can still even ask you, hey, where we are right now, is it wise to do this, or should we stay here? And it's incredible. It's been wonderful.
My favorite part, and then I'll let you guys go. I love it when it's overwhelming. You're out of office space and everybody's selling something. That to me is the most exciting part where people begin to share a desk, they share a chair. It gets socially awkward because your desk, you recognize that a box of product has become your desk. You recognize that you're taking notes on boxes, and that's exciting stuff. That's where you can't find your wallet because everything's being shipped in and out. That's an exciting place to be. So I encourage everybody, check out the Givaderm product today for anybody out there, and don't not do it because I'm endorsing it. Check it out, givaderm.com. Go there, givaderm.com. Check it out there. And then the final question is, how do we accurately pronounce your last name? Because you spell your last name, it's Grimnes. So someone's going, Grimes.
That's it. You got it the first time.
If you add an S, you will pronounce it correctly.
Yeah. So think of it. My dad would say, think of it as like, don't say this, Dad. He's like, think of it as like the grimness of the situation. I'm like, Dad, that's not good. Don't say that. No, don't. It's good. No. Like, anyway.
Thank you, Team Grimness. Have a great day. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank
We'll talk
you.
to you soon.
Thank you. It's been an honor. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Ryan Wimpy. And I'm Rachel Limpy, and the name of our business is Tip Top Canine.
Our business is a dog training business. We help people with behavioral issues and teach their dog how to listen. When I was learning to become a dog trainer, we didn't learn anything about internet marketing or advertising or anything at all. Just dog training. And that's what's so great about working with Clay and his team, because they do it all for us.
So that we can focus on our passion, and that's training dogs. Clay and his team here, they're so enthusiastic. Their energy is off the charts. Never a dull moment here at Thrive.
We've been working with Clay and his team for the last 5 months, 2 of which have been our biggest months ever. 1, our biggest gross by 35%. Clay's helped us make anything from brochures to stickers, new business cards, new logos, scripts for phones, script for email, script for text message, scripting for everything.
How I would describe the weekly meetings with Clay and his team are awesome. They're so effective. It's worth every minute. Things get done. We'll ask for things like different flyers, and they're done before our hour is up. So it's just awesome, extremely effective.
If you don't use Clay and his team, you're probably going to be pulling your hair out, or you're going to spend half of your time trying to figure out the online marketing game and producing your own flyers and marketing materials, print materials, all the stuff like that. You're really losing a lot as far as lost productivity and lost time, not having a professional do it that has a real sense of urgency and that actually knows what they're doing, when you already have something that's your core focus that you already know how to do.
You would also be missing out with all the time and financial freedom that you would have working with Clay and his team.
We would recommend Clay and his team to other business owners because they need to be working on their business, not just trying to figure out the online game, which is complex and changing daily. So, and no one has a marketing team too. Most people don't. They can't afford one, and their local web guy or a local person that they know probably can't do everything that a whole team and a whole floor of people can do in hours and not just weeks or months. There's a definite sense of urgency with Clay and his team. I used to have to ride other web people, really ride them to get stuff done, and stuff is done so fast here, and there's a real sense of urgency to get it done.
I'm Rachel with Tip Top Canine, and we just want to give a huge thank you to Clay and Vanessa Clark.
Hey guys, I'm Ryan with Tip Top Canine. Just want to say a big thank you to Thrive 15. Thank you to Make Your Life Epic. We love you guys, we appreciate you, and really just appreciate how far you've taken us.
This is our old house, right? This is where we used to live a few years ago. This is our old neighborhood. See, it's nice, right?
So this is my old van and our old school marketing, and this is our old team. And by team, I mean it's me and another guy.
This is our new house with our new neighborhood.
This is our new van with our new marketing, and this is our new team. We went from 4 to 14, and I took this beautiful photo. We worked with several different business coaches in the past, and they were all about helping Ryan sell better and just teaching sales, which is awesome, but Ryan is a really great salesman. So we didn't need that. We needed somebody to help us get everything that was in his head out into systems, into manuals and scripts, and actually build a team. So now that we have systems in place, we've gone from 1 to 10 locations in only a year.
In October 2016, we grossed 13 grand for the whole month. Right now it's 2018, the month of October. It's only the 22nd. We've already grossed a little over 50 grand for the whole month, and we still have time to go. We're just thankful for you, thankful for Thrive and your mentorship, and we're really thankful that you guys have helped us to grow a business that we run now instead of the business running us. Just thank you times 1,000.
So we really just want to thank you, Clay, and thank you, Vanessa, for everything you've done, everything you've helped us with. We love you guys.
I'm Dr. Mark Moore. I'm a pediatric dentist. Through our new digital marketing plan, we have seen a marked increase in the number of new patients that we're seeing every month, year over year. One month, for example, we went from 110 new patients the previous year to over 180 new patients in the same month. And overall, our average is running about 40 to 42% increase month over month, year over year. The group of people required to implement our new digital marketing plan is immense, starting with a business coach, videographers, photographers, web designers. Back when I graduated dental school in 1985, nobody advertised. The only marketing that was ethically allowed in everybody's eyes was mouth-to-mouth marketing. By choosing to use the services, you're choosing to use a proven turnkey marketing and coaching system. that will grow your practice and get you the results that you're looking for. I went to the University of Oklahoma College of Dentistry, graduated in 1983, and then I did my pediatric dental residency at Baylor College of Dentistry from 1983 to 1985.
JT, do you know what time it is?
4:10.
It's Tebow time in Tulsa, Jerusalem, baby. Tim Tebow is coming to Tulsa, Oklahoma. During the month of Christmas, December 5th and 6th, 2024, Tim Tebow is coming to Tulsa, Oklahoma in the 2-day interactive Thrive Time Show Business Growth Workshop. Yes, folks, put it in your calendar. This December, the month of Christmas, December 5th and 6th, Tim Tebow is coming to Tulsa, Oklahoma in the Thrive Time Show 2-day interactive business growth workshop. We've been doing business conferences here since 2005. I've been hosting business conferences since 2005. What year were you born?
1995.
Dude, I've been hosting business conferences since you were 10 years old. And a lot of people, have followed Tim Tebow's football career on the field and off the field. And off the field, the guy's been just as successful as he has been on the field. Now, the big question is, JT, how does he do it?
Well, they're going to have to come and find out because I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying, Tim Tebow's going to teach us how he organizes his day, how he organizes his life, how he's proactive with his faith, his family, his finances. He's going to walk us through his mindset that he brings into the gym, into business. It is going to be a blasty blast in Tulsa, Jerusalem. Folks, I'm telling you, if you want to learn branding, you want to learn marketing, you want to learn search engine optimization, you want to learn social media marketing, that's what we teach at the Thrive Time Show 2-day interactive workshop. If you want to learn accounting, you want to learn sales systems, you want to learn how to build a linear workflow, you want to learn how to franchise your business, that is what we teach at the 2-day interactive Thrive Time Show business workshop. Over the years, we've had the opportunity to feature Michael Levine, the PR consultant of choice for Nike, for Prince, for Michael Jackson. We've had the top PR consultant in the history of the planet has spoken at the Thrive Time Show workshops. We've had Jill Donovan, the founder of RusticCuff.com, a company that creates apparel worn by celebrities all throughout the world. Jill Donovan, the founder of RusticCuff.com, has spoken at the 2-day interactive Thrive Time Show business workshops. We have the man who's responsible for turning around Harley Davidson, a man by the name of Ken Schmidt. He has spoken at the Thrive Time Show 2-day interactive business workshops. Folks, I'm telling you, these events are going to teach you what you need to know to start and grow a successful business. And the way we price the events, the way we do these events, is you can pay $250 for a ticket or whatever price that you can afford. What? Yes, we've designed these events to be affordable for you, and we want to see you live and in person at the 2-day interactive December 5th and 6th Thrive Time Show Business Workshop. Everything that you need to succeed will be taught at the 2-day interactive Thrive Time Show Business Workshop, December 5th and 6th in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And the way we do these events is we teach for 30 minutes, and then we open it up for a question and answer session so that wonderful people like you can have your questions answered. Yes, we teach for 30 minutes, and then we open it up for a 15-minute question and answer session. It's interactive. It's 2 days. It's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We've been doing these events since 2005, and I'm telling you, folks, it's going to blow your mind. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Thrive Time Show 2-day interactive business workshop is America's highest rated and most reviewed business workshop. See the thousands of video testimonials from real people just like you who've been able to build multi-million-dollar companies. Watch those testimonials today at thrivetimeshow.com. Simply by clicking on the testimonials button right there at thrivetimeshow.com, you're going to see thousands of people just like you who've been able to go from just surviving to thriving. Whoa. Each and every day, we're going to add more and more speakers to this all-star lineup, but I encourage everybody out there today, get those tickets today. Go to thrivetimeshow.com. Again, that's thrivetimeshow.com. And some people might be saying, well, how do I do it? What do I do? How does it work? You just go to thrivetimeshow.com. Let's go there now. We're feeling the flow. We're going to thrivetimeshow.com. Again, you just go to thrivetimeshow.com. You click on the business conferences button, and you click on the request tickets button right there. The way I do our conferences is we tell people it's $250 to get a ticket.
Yep.
Or whatever price that you can afford. And the reason why I do that is I grew up without money. JT, you're in the process of building a super successful company. Did you start out with $1 million in the bank account?
No, I did not. Nope, did not get any loans, nothing like that. Did not get an inheritance from parents or anything like that. I had to work for it, and I'm super grateful I came to a business conference. That's actually how I met you, met Peter Taunton. I met all these people.
So if you're out there today and you want to come to our workshop, again, you just got to go to thrivetimeshow.com. You might say, well, who's speaking? We already covered that. You might say, where's it going to be? It's going to be in Tulsa, Jerusalem, Oklahoma. And someone says, Tulsa, Jerusalem. I'm really trying to rebrand Tulsa as Tulsa, Jerusalem, sort of like the Jerusalem of America. But if you type in Thrive Time Show and Jinx, you can get a sneak peek or a look at our office facility. This is what it looks like. This is where you're headed. It's going to be a blasty blast. You can look inside, see the facility. We're going to have hundreds of entrepreneurs here. It is going to be packed. Now, for this particular event, folks, the seating is always limited because my facility isn't a limitless convention center. You're coming to my actual home office, and so it's going to be packed. Who? You're going to come. Who? You? I'm talking to you. You can just get your tickets right now at thrivetimeshow.com. And again, you can name your price. We tell people it's $250 or whatever price you can afford. And we do have some select VIP tickets, which gives you an access to meet some of the speakers and those sorts of things. And those tickets are $500. It's a 2-day interactive business workshop, over 20 hours of business training. We're going to give you a copy of my newest book, The Millionaire's Guide to Becoming Sustainably Rich. You're going to leave with a workbook. You're going to leave with everything you need to know to start and grow a super successful company. It's practical, it's actionable, and it's Tebow time right here in Tulsa, Jerusalem. Get those tickets today at thrivetimeshow.com. Again, that's thrivetimeshow.com.
Hello, I'm Michael Levine, and I'm talking to you right now from the center of Hollywood, California, where I have represented over the last 35 years 58 Academy Award winners, 34 Grammy Award winners, 43 New York Times bestsellers. I've represented a lot of major stars, and I've worked with a lot of major companies. And I think I've learned a few things about what makes them work and what makes them not work. Now, why would a man living in Hollywood, California, in the beautiful sunny weather of LA, come to Tulsa? Because last year I did it, and it was damn exciting. Clay Clark has put together an exceptional presentation, really life-changing, and I'm looking forward to seeing you then. I'm Michael Levine. I'll see you in Tulsa.
Thrive Time Show 2-day interactive business workshops are the world's highest rated and most reviewed business workshops because we teach you what you need to know to grow.
You can learn the proven 13-point business systems that Dr. Zellner and I have used over and over to start and grow successful companies. I mean, we get into the specific steps on what you need to do to optimize your website. We're going to teach you how to fix your conversion rate. We're going to teach you how to do a social media marketing campaign that works. How do you raise capital? How do you get a small business loan? We teach you everything you need to know here during a 2-day, 15-hour workshop. It's all here for you. You work every day in your business, but for 2 days you can escape and work on your business and build these proven systems so now you can have a successful company that will produce both the time freedom and the financial freedom that you deserve. You're going to leave energized, motivated, but you're also going to leave empowered. The reason why I've built these workshops is because as an entrepreneur, I always wish that I had this. And because there wasn't anything like this, I would go to these motivational seminars, no money down, real estate, Ponzi scheme, get motivated seminars, and they would never teach me anything. It was like you went there and you paid for the big chocolate Easter bunny, but inside of it, it was a hollow nothingness. And I wanted the knowledge, and they're like, oh, but we'll teach you the knowledge after our next workshop. And the great thing is we have nothing to upsell. At every workshop, we teach you what you need to know. There's no one in the back of the room trying to sell you some next big get-rich-quick, walk-on-hot-coals product. It's literally, we teach you the brass tacks, the specific stuff that you need to know to learn how to start and grow a business. And I encourage you to not believe what I'm saying, and I want you to Google the Z66 auto auction. I want you to Google elephant in the room. Look at Robert Zellner and Associates. Look them up and say, are they successful because they're geniuses, or are they successful because they have a proven system? When you do that research, you will discover that the same systems that we use in our own business can be used in your business. Come to Tulsa, book a ticket, and I guarantee you it's going to be the best business workshop ever, and we'll even give you your money back if you don't love it. We've built this facility for you, and we're excited to see you.
And now you may be thinking, what does it actually cost to attend an in-person 2-day interactive Thrive Time Show business workshop? Well, good news. The tickets are $250 or whatever price that you can afford. What? Yes, they're $250 or whatever price you can afford. I grew up without money, and I know what it's like to live without money. So if you're out there today and you want to attend our in-person 2-day interactive business workshop, all you got to do is go to thrivetimeshow.com to request those tickets. And if you can't afford $250, we have scholarship pricing available to make it affordable for you.
I learned at the Academy, Kings Point in New York. Acta non verba. Watch what a person does, not what they say.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. Today I'm broadcasting from Phoenix, Arizona, not Scottsdale, Arizona. They're close, but they're completely different worlds. And we have a special guest today. Definition of intelligence is if you agree with me, you're intelligent. And so this gentleman is very intelligent. I've done this show before also, but very seldom do you find somebody who lines up on all counts. And it's a Mr. Clay Clark. He's a friend of a good friend, Eric Trump. But we're also talking about money, bricks, and how screwed up the world can get in a few and a half hour. So Clay Clark is a very intelligent man, and there's so many ways we could take this thing. But I thought, since you and Eric are close, Trump, what were you saying about what Trump can't, what Donald, who's my age, and I can say or cannot say?
First of all, I have to honor you, sir. I want to show you what I did to one of your books here. There's a guy by the name of Jeremy Thorne, who was my boss at the time. I was 19 years old, working at Faith Highway. I had a job at Applebee's, Target, and DirecTV. And he said, "Have you read this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad?" And I said, "No." And my father, may he rest in peace, he didn't know these financial principles. So I started reading all of your books and really devouring your books. And I went from being an employee to self-employed, to the business owner, to the investor. And I owe a lot of that to you. And I just wanted to take a moment to tell you, thank you so much for allowing me to achieve success. And then I'll tell you all about Eric Trump. But I just want to tell you, thank you, sir, for changing my life.
But not only that, Clay, thank you, but you become an influencer. More than anything else, you've evolved into an influencer where your word has more and more power. So that's why I congratulate you on becoming. Because as you know, there's a lot of fake influencers out there too, or bad influencers.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm glad you and I agree so much, and thanks for reading my books.
Yeah.
That's the greatest thrill for me today. Not a thrill, but recognition is when people, young men especially, come up and say, "I read your book, changed my life. I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this."
I learned at the Academy, Kings Point in New York. Acta non verba. Watch what a person does, not what they say.